Choctaw. It's always Choctaw Day.
It's Choctaw Day all the time, Roy.
It's Choctaw Day.
It's
Oh, hello! Welcome to Red Hoop Talk. I'm Roy Lendis from the Caddo Days Nation of Louisiana, and this is my sister,
Shannon O'Loughlin, citizen of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma.
Today is National Choctaw
It
Red
is
Hoop
National.
Talk Day.
I'm wearing my Christmas Choctaw shirt. Everybody. Okay, thank you. We'll bring that up more. And our guest today is also Choctaw.
And these are Choctaw mounds behind us.
That's one mound. One mound, Roy. That's one mound. That is our origin mound. That's where we were birthed out of. That's her belly.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for coming and watching Red Hoop Talk. Brought to you by the Association on American Indian Affairs. I am the executive director and attorney for the association, and I'm coming to you from the lands of the Piscataway people. And Roy's coming from
the lands of all the many nations of California. So
what do you want to talk about?
My flashing camera.
Yeah, would you have this flashing?
I got a new camera.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a new computer. I got new internet service. I got a new router. Everything is new. And it's still flashing. Now you just flashed.
Hey, man, we just got a lot of energy going on here. We're just special.
It's got to be like a power thing in my house or something like that.
I think we're just we just got a lot of energy and it's coming toward us. Okay. The light is coming.
Good way to put it there.
Go towards the light.
Okay. So we've got an awesome guest coming on tonight. Yes. And I didn't get to, I've got to talk to her a couple of times. I didn't get to talk to her this week because when we did have our meeting, my internet was completely down. And so it's going to be exciting to sit down and actually talk to her because she was on the our entertainment show. What did we call that show?
Envisioning the Future.
Envisioning the Future.
Which was the 98th annual membership meeting for the association. Yeah, Sienna was part of our big group of new and emerging performers. She's been working in Los Angeles. She's been making some great film out there. She's been working on her writing and has some accolades to her name now. And she's just overall a funny person once you get past the fact that she looks like she's 14. But I think we're going to get past that tonight.
14? You're just aging yourself. Right. She's a young lady, but not like 14.
She could play
like in her rock and roll 20s, but not like 14.
Okay. Yeah, she could play a 14-year-old. Okay, so if she was on Saturday Night Live, she could play one of the children. You know, when they need a child to play some kind of sketch, right? She could play that 14-year-old.
Oh, Shannon.
I can only say that.
So news this week is worthy of us talking.
Good Indian country news this week. Very good Indian country news.
Very good Indian country news.
Yeah.
So when we last talked, there was rumor of Deb Haaland becoming the Secretary of the Interior. Is that what it's called? Did I get that right?
Yes, the Secretary of the U.S. Department of the Interior.
Now, for the first time.
Yes.
In U.S. history, in the history of the country, but back, to finally an Indian being in charge of what goes on here on the land. Is that cool or what?
It's extremely cool.
That is fucking awesome is what I have to say about it.
Well, it's not just that, but she's a cabinet. She's the first Native American cabinet member.
Native American female cabinet member, right. And she's in charge of the Interior. Bye-bye, XL. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Well, we've got, let's hope. And I know that they have a lot of work on their hands. They've got about
a ton of work, but you know what? They're ready for it. They're ready
mhm.
for it.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
what's cool is that the people that are coming in right now have been ready for it. Look, Roy's been telling you, Shannon. You naysayer, you keeper of the bad juju. I was telling you, they're coming. This thing is changing.
Hmm.
Now, if I would have told you there's going to be an Indian in charge of the interior months ago, you'd have said, Roy, you silly little man. You silly, silly
I
little
would have
man.
said, Roy, do you know what the interior does? That would have been the first question I would have asked.
And I would have talked about something else because I didn't know what the interior was until last week when I read about Deb Haaland being the secretary of the interior.
Right, right.
But now that I'm seeing some of the positioning,
Hmm.
for instance, like the Department of Transportation, we have Mr. Pete Buttigieg being put in there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of positioning for renewable energies to take charge and for infrastructure to be done. And now we have an Indian in our first female Native American Department of the Interior badass double throwdown chook of the week gonna come in and jack your shits up, guys. Be stand by. Deb Holland's coming for your lunch money, and she's gonna take your bike and she's gonna take your girlfriends too.
Oh, Roy.
I'm excited, Shannon.
Good.
I'm excited because things are starting to happen, and more news. Aren't we talking? The Cleveland Indians have finally said us that's it for their name. No more Mr. Goofy Indian picture on their jerseys and stuff.
Well, they had already removed I don't know what his name was, Captain Wahoo or
Yeah,
you know
Chief Wahoo or
Chief
something like that. Yeah.
Wahoo. But the Indians' name is continued, and I think now there's only really three professional sports teams that still carry native stereotype or native stereotypical
Pro teams. There's still a lot of the
high school and
high
college.
school and stuff like that
But
aren't.
it's so much better. A lot of people have really turned it around, especially since the Washington football team name was changed, not because anyone in the franchise had anything to do with it, but because of their sponsors said they'd had enough and it was time to change.
Yeah.
Lance is asking about how do we think her interview will go, and
I am excited to see. I hope that that's going to be televised. They usually don't televise those, right?
the hearings. So her
Do
hearing
they
will go.
televise them though, or
Yes,
oh, this is
absolutely.
going to be good. Yeah, I hope she just beats their shit up, man. It's like get after them, Deb. What kind of questions? I mean, what can they ask her? You know, what can they ask her?
Oh, they'll ask.
Are they gonna try and maybe what do they call that when they were asking Obama for his birth certificate? Are they gonna try and
Well,
um,
they should know about her record. They're likely going to ask her about her qualifications for the job, and they're going to ask her if she has bias because of her strong opinions and positions in Indian country. I think.
and
I think that,
I hope she's just tells them yes.
but do you? So here's the thing that we all have to be aware of, that as much as we love Deb Haaland, and we all do, she's going to have to take positions that are in opposition to Indian country. She's going to have
Mm-hmm.
to, because she's representing the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone in the Department of Interior or in federal agencies, um, uh, especially in the Bureau of Indian Affairs, you may be working with Native nations, but your client, who you represent, is the U.S. Constitution and the American people. So when interests are put up against one another between the U.S. and tribal interests, the U.S. interests are always going to win over. whatever that is. So if it's job, if it's economic development, if it's certain states' rights, if it's they may win over Indian country, even though we have a strong
I understand
Indian
that.
country woman. So that's the thing we all have to remember, and that she's going to be put in that position. That doesn't mean that she's all of a sudden not a good, strong Indian woman. It just means that she's agreed to commit to a position that's not always going to run side by side with Indian country positions.
Well, that goes without saying, and that's not what is going on here. What's going on here is the culture of the interior is going to start changing, because I'm not talking about, yes, she's going to have to represent the United States and stand up against Indian nations, like you said, in litigation and in as far as projects and these things go. But the culture is going to be changing. She's going to actually be able to shift and hire and develop and grow for over the next 4 years what the Department of the Interior is going to look like. And that's what I'm excited about. She's got a lot of work to backpedal through all of the mess that's already been handed to her, of course, that's going to be handed to her. She's not going to be able to just change things overnight. Things are a mess in there. I can imagine that it's going to be, she's going to have to walk in there and freaking open the doors, turn on the lights, and let all the rats and roaches scurry away first. Then she's going to have to drop a bomb in there and kill everything that's left, and then sweep it out and start to build it back up again. I mean, I understand that's what's going to happen, but she's going to do it. I believe she's going to do it.
Yeah.
And but finally an Indian is in there. It's like, wow. What a day. What a day.
Yes. And also what a day. Hey, the Association on American Indian Affairs has its first TikTok video up.
Hey!
On TikTok. Should we show it real quick? It's only a couple minutes.
Yep.
Let me see if I can get it up. We'll show that, and then we'll bring out our guest. How's that?
Yep.
All right, let me find it. That's right. So now everyone has to get on TikTok and check out our...
Put something up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I don't know. Oh, crap. I forgot to do the volume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Let me do that over again. I have to share audio. I should be well adept at this. All right, here we go. Is it still not playing? Oh, duh. Hold on. We're going to try it one more time. We're going to do it.
I need one of those. Time. I need one of those old schooly intermission thing. Dun, 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 dun,
well, we still need music, man.
I know. You got to be so careful, though. We'll shut you down faster than anything.
I know. Okay, here we go.
I'm Aruna, and I'm here to take over the Association on American Indian Affairs TikTok account to talk to you guys a little bit about land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgement is recognizing that you are on Indigenous land, which is land that has been and continues to be cared for and lived on by Indigenous people. Wherever you are in the U.S., you are on land that the Creator gave to Indigenous people to care for and thrive on. This is land that was supposed to be shared between European governments and Native nations through codified agreements called treaties. However, most of these treaties have been broken by European settlers that have taken land through force, violence, and genocide. By acknowledging what land you're on, you're also acknowledging the harsh and heartbreaking history of colonization and honoring the Indigenous peoples of the land that you stand on. The association is dedicated to advocating for Indigenous cultures, and you can show support by clicking the donation sticker in their bio. Make sure to check out part 2. Hi guys, my name is Sonia or Ahud.
Hey.
And then that's Sonia, and Sonia's site has part 2 of that land recognition video. So it was kind of cool to do that little partnership with her. She's an avid TikToker and a native creator. So we were glad to partner with Sonia.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the first of many, and I think we're going to see a few more as we move on this month and next, and maybe our next guest may be on one of our TikTok videos soon as well. Shall we invite her in, Miss Sienna East from the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and the Pueblo of Isleta. Hello, Sienna.
Hi.
Hey, Sienna.
How's it going?
Good. I wasn't expecting to get slammed so hard in my first introduction earlier, but I have gone out for 14. So like, it's not like it hasn't happened. And I do have a joke that I used to tell where one time I went to the Cheesecake Factory with my boyfriend and my little brother was there. And they asked, the lady asked if we wanted, it wasn't Cheesecake Factory, it was Maggiano's, same thing in my head. But they asked if we wanted 2 kids menus. And it was a very hard moment for me in my life.
Ooh, with your boyfriend.
You want to know what's worse than that, Sienna?
What's worse than that?
I actually made it on my first senior menu order like about 2 months ago. It was like looking at it, said senior menu 53. If you're 53, you can get off the senior menu. And I was like, son of a bitch. I fucking made the senior menu. And that was painful. That was very painful.
I will.
Of course, I ordered off of it.
Yeah,
got my discount.
Liver and onion.
What's that?
Oh, I was gonna say I will one up you because it wasn't the worst for me. When we were walking to the table, my ex-boyfriend was making fun of me, and my little brother said, "You're the one dating her." So I think, if anything, it's worse for him that his girlfriend was about to be 14. So in order, I think him, you, me.
Yeah, we all know you're old, Roy, but
yeah.
Sienna's not.
You ain't
adult woman.
I'm very mature.
You're a mature adult woman,
So
and as I've gotten to know you, I'm so grateful for your maturity, and you handle yourself so professionally and even killed. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I peed right before this. So
they can't hear me. I've got to. Let me.
What happened?
Everybody say they can't hear me. It's this
I can hear
darn microphone. Well, they can't. So I'm.
All right, Lance says he can't hear you. Lance, can you hear him now? And can folks tell us?
Let me take this automatically.
Well, we don't need to hear you anyway, Roy.
Oh,
all
wait
right,
a second.
Sienna.
Ding. How about that? Is that a little better, Lance? Can you tell me if that was better?
Don't tell him. Let's pretend we can't hear Roy the whole show.
All right.
So, okay, Sienna, you're this confused Indian, you're Pueblo, and you're Choctaw. And I'm not.
Now she's a 14-year-old confused Indian. Is that now you're? This is getting better. This is getting better.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see where this is going. You guys are going to be like duking it out before the end of the show here.
All right.
Sienna's like, I've had it with you. That's it. Claw through the screen and get you.
Yeah,
I'm doing well so far. Okay, Sienna, with my apologies. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I can tell you about my family and my background, because it's definitely a conversation right now, families and backgrounds and what that means with Trickster and everything. And I've been reading a lot about all that, so fun. But my super nana, which I talked about this in my stand-up, she died. Very sad. She was Choctaw, and she was in the Indian schools, the residential schools. She got taken to go to one of those, and that's where she met her husband, or future husband, who was Pueblo. And then, you get removed from places, and she went to go with him, and they lived on his reservation with his family, and that's where my grandma grew up, and that's where I have a bunch of family members, and that's where we'll go back and visit. And they visited us before, met cousins and stuff, but when we visited them, like we went to Sky City, and we went to the Corn Festival. But when they visited us, we went to Universal Studios. So it's like a trade-off. We got like different things to offer. We got Universal Studios. I like how we picked that over Disneyland. It's like, no, guys, we're gonna go to Universal Studios, and so my grandma grew up there, and then my grandma chose to live on a bus with her family and my dad and my aunts and stuff like that. And she raised them on a bus, and they just drove around everywhere. They never went to school or anything. And then my aunt decided to stay in LA, and then my dad decided to stay in LA, and then my Nana eventually came. So eventually now we're all like a couple blocks away from each other.
Wow.
And so I've definitely grown up Native, and it is a huge part of like my experience and my childhood and hearing stories from my family. And I remember at my grandma's house, we had this big powwow regalia photo up. It was like huge. It was right above the balcony and stuff. And not the balcony. What's it called? What's an indoor balcony you put fire in?
Oh, a fireplace?
The mantle. The mantle is the balcony of the fireplace.
That's true. That's what
is
it
the inside balcony that you light on fire?
The indoor balcony above the fireplace.
It's where little people stand and they go, ooh, look at
That's a good one right there.
I forget words all the time, but I get my way there. I always get there in the end. And we visit family in Isleta, and my uncle came and he was helping out with historical records out here one time, just organizing stuff and stuff like that. But my Choctaw heritage is very different, and I'm part of the Choctaw Nation. And so I've taken upon myself to really understand what that is. And so like I've been learning Choctaw this year, which has been an experience, and it's definitely been hard. I love my teacher. She's the best. She's really funny. She's this old lady, and she won't give.
And you're doing that online, right? Yeah. You're doing that the video classes, yeah.
Doing it online. None of us have videos up. We're not supposed to go in the chat. She's like, that's like talking during class. So you have to only send her messages. But then you can't read the questions, and I think she's the best lady because she'll be like, oh, you want to know if you can use that in a plural? And she goes, you can, but it's wrong. And I'm like, that's not the answer. Just say you can't. She's the funniest. I really like her. She was like, you guys like Carrie Underwood? We're going to put the Carrie Underwood Christmas song album on while you guys take a test. And we're like,
no. That's not helpful.
It's fun. I like her so much. And she laughs. Like I'll put jokes like in Choctaw. Like I'll be like, Toby. Like I'm like, oh, these white beans. And she'll be like, oh, she's put these words next to each. So she'll laugh as she goes through mine. I know. So I really like her. So that's my background. And basically my dad, like, it's weird how much, and I think especially Native people know this, how much of your history is decided before you even start and how much your history decides your life. Yeah. The decision's already made.
Determined for you, yeah.
100%. And so my super nana really valued like hard work and taking care of family. Like when my parents had me, things weren't that hot. And she was like, I'm going to buy you guys a house. I've saved up my whole life. My grandson's going to have a house. And so she bought the house that we still live in today. And that like has been like our saving grace our whole lives. She bought it for us right after the earthquake. That was when we got our house because it was cheaper then because everyone was leaving. So she bought us our house. And then my dad, because he didn't have education, really valued education. And so he and my mom were very much about like making sure that my siblings and I were all very focused in school and did our best. Like schoolwork was our work. And that was what was really important to them. And so like the reason like I have been able to like be a part of these programs and do the things I've done. And I went to NYU and everything is all because my super nana decided that family was important to her. And my dad decided education was important to him. Right. And now like that was pre-decided for me. Like I didn't pick education. I did pick stand-up, which is a little against it, but whatever.
It's an avenue of education, right?
It is. I mean, my education has definitely helped me be a better stand-up. It's just when you say that to people, I was complaining because I have a friend who's a lawyer and he put it in his Instagram and his Twitter bio. And I was like, you can't put comedian in your Twitter bio and expect people to take you seriously and fight online. They'll take lawyers seriously, but they're not going to take comedians seriously.
I don't know. They're kind of going hand in hand these days in your bio.
Yeah, that's jester and lawyer.
Okay.
All right, I'm hearing some feedback. We're having technical. Okay, it sounds better now. No, it's not.
No, I hear the feedback going on.
Okay. All right, Sienna. No, not Sienna.
I was just checking. And so that's kind of my family history and how I got here.
But what made you what possessed you? What made you take the leap to like get on stage and do comedy, or how did that start?
Oh, I'm happy to talk about that too.
Okay.
I did a lot of public speaking like in elementary school and stuff like that, and I was on the student council and stuff. But then in high school, like I kind of messed up. My mom wanted me to do like liturgical readings for church, and it was a very unpleasant experience. And I was like, I really hated it, and it really made public speaking hard for me. And then when I ended up going to college, I was in film school and I was writing, and I realized I like comedy, I was like television, and I had a teacher who asked us to do stand-up for class, and he thought that was an important part of learning how to structure jokes. And I really liked doing stand-up for class. I did kind of a nuts thing, because we do stand-up for class, and I don't know what's the rating level of this. What?
Oh, we're R.
Are we R?
Yeah, you can R it up.
Yeah,
so I had slept with this guy, and I had decided he was in my class, and he asked me not to write about that. And I was like, all right, I don't write about it. But then when I did my stand-up, I talked about different guys I had been with, but every time I made it sound like it was going to be him, and then twist it wasn't, and there were jokes in it. And my teacher really liked it, and he did not. That guy, the guy I slept with, did not like it. We did not sleep together again. I thought it was funny. It was not, apparently. But I really liked just being really straight up and really open. And my teacher thought I did a really good job. And so when I got back out to LA, like I really started doing stand-up a lot, because I was doing improv, which is at UCB, which is like very much like how, like what is the structure of a scene? What's the structure of a joke? And I realized stand-up as a writer and thinking about stand-up is very much about character. How do people immediately perceive me, and what does that mean? And so I would just get on the stage because I liked talking and I liked hearing the responses, and I liked figuring it out. It's like a puzzle, and I liked being way too honest with people. I was very into it. Loved to say things that I wasn't supposed to say, or things that were too intimate. Loved inviting my mom to stand up where I said things that were very nuts. And I really liked it. And there was definitely a transition that was a little difficult for me in stand up. And it's not that I was nervous. It was that a lot of my stand up came from like anger and games with people. Because a lot of men didn't like that I was there. There's a lot of old men at my stand-up. I did like a clean mic. And I did really good when my goal was to make sure that I was funny so they were mad. Some of the men were very supportive, and some were very not supportive and very mean, and said like gross things. Like, because when you're a girl stand-up, people always talk about, they'll go up after you and they'll be like, oh, and they'll talk about having sex with you, or they'll talk about someone else having sex with you or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And so you learn like how to get, like I would go up and I'd be like, oh, well, like, I try not to let it go to my head because like a man would fuck a chicken. So like, I'm not special. And that gets that guy to shut up. And so when I started doing stand-up where people were welcoming me and I wanted it, I had to realize like, I'm not at war with everybody. You know, that's not always the game. Like I want to be excited. I want to love the audience. And so it changed the way that like I understood that was like my first year was a lot of me going up against people who didn't want me there. And then my second year was me embracing and really enjoying the people there, and because it was a whole new pressure when people were excited for me. When people were rooting for me to fail, I'll get you. When people were like, we want you to succeed, I was like, oh, I'm a little nervous now. People want me to succeed. I'm not used to that feeling and that pressure.
Right.
And so that was, I would say that was like the hardest, that like, you're like, what took you to get up on the stage? All it took me to get up on the stage was someone said, do it. And I did it. And I was like, all right, I like this. But as soon as I had to get on the stage and people wanted me to be there, it was a new kind of pressure that I like adapted to and learned to enjoy.
Nice. Wow. Well, I just want to clear something up. Not just any chicken, but it's got to be a hot one.
Well, I was referencing a specific YouTube video that had come out that year because a man had sex with a chicken and a woman had sex with a dog, and they had both gone online and both got taken down. And this was just what I was seeing on the internet. Sorry, I said, how inappropriate.
Only good-looking chickens. Good-looking chickens.
No.
Kind of with the feathers on their feet. Kind of chickens.
Oh, those ones are fashionable.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Bougie.
My grandmother
chickens.
Had like tons of chickens. My grandmother loved chickens. She loved all animals. Like she could make animals reproduce. Like she worked at pet stores. What?
Like the chickens. He loved the chickens.
I don't know about my grandpa and chickens. I'm not going there. But my grandmother, she loved animals, and she had all these different kinds of chickens, and they would lay all these weird looking eggs. and she had the ones with the weird feathers on their feet, and they were so cute. I don't know what worth they were, or if they
They're
actually
nice ones.
did.
That gets into a weird spot. Like, I don't know if you guys read about Silicon Valley and people keeping chickens and the value of different colors of chicken eggs, and they trade them.
So there's a farm here I'm in California also. I'm on the other side of town from you. But there's a farm here where Tori Spelling comes out here to buy her chickens and her goats, because they have the pygmy goats and all of the fancy chickens with the feathers on their feet and all that stuff. And of course, we had to go down to the farm to see the chickens. The kids wanted to see the chickens, and we went. But all the Hollywood elite people come out here to get their special egg-laying, feather-footed chickens at this farm down the road here.
Your joke,
it's like a thing.
Could go a whole new direction at this point.
The chickens. It's funny she says that though, because I had never heard that before. But they're anyway. You know what? I'm not even gonna.
You're trying. I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to like apologize or make up for the fact that that's true about men.
I don't think it's true, but what's true about that one guy on YouTube? So I'm going to defend men real fast and almost say,
Shannon, they're after you too. So
Siena's talking shit.
Chickens, women.
I don't know.
I've got a lot of bestiality in my conversations. I don't know if you guys watched the short film Lycanphobic.
There is a book that says dog back there behind you.
Well, this is my book from second grade of all the dogs ever, and I found it recently, and all my bookmarks are in it. And a friend was asking me about what dog should be one of the scripts, and I was like checking through my book, being like, I think it should be, and he was like, no, and that was the story of this dog book.
Well, we've got a good subject going on here. All right.
Well, because in my short film, also, this doesn't help, is there's bestiality in that. There's a suggestion of sex, people having sex with dogs is a big part. And an exec recently suggested I watch Sleeping Dogs Lie, which is this amazing movie. And that also had bestiality in it. So
that is all over the place. What is going on with this conversation, man?
Where should we bring it back to next? We can bring it back. We're going so far.
Merry Christmas.
The Red Hoop Talk Christmas special.
Christmas special. What do you do with your farm animals?
We started chickens, now we're on dogs. We're heading towards buffaloes, folks. We're heading towards buffaloes.
I loved it at Halloween time where everyone was dressing up like a buffalo with jeans on their head. That was just like
I saw a dog with the little horns and the jeans on his head, and I was like, that's perfect.
See, now this is turning the corner here. So let's So Isleta Pueblo, for folks who have never been out there, it's in New Mexico. It's what is it, south? Is it south of Albuquerque or north of Albuquerque?
I think it's a little. I went on a train. I don't know where I am right now. Technically, the south-north stuff is definitely going to lose.
Come on, you're native. You're supposed to know where you are at all times.
At all times.
Have this magic power.
You're supposed to be the tracker.
Someone on Twitter was doing like, what's your, how do you know that you're native? Like, without saying you're native, like, what's your power? And I was like, swinging my hair out of the way so people don't touch it. Like, that's my power. And a bunch of people were like, yes, like, just get that, like, you just go, like, so people can't grab it.
Oh, man. Oh, there was I don't understand why people are fascinated and want to touch people's braids and hair. That's just odd. But anyway.
Yes, back to Isleta.
Let's talk
New
about
Mexico
and something. Okay, Lance said south of Albuquerque. Thank you, Lance.
I thought it was south, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. But God, it's beautiful out there.
Oh, it's totally beautiful. And I've been so many times to the Hard Rock Casino there because they have really good deals on convention things. So if you need some place to go, Hard Rock is the place. but the center of town where St. Augustine's church is, and the ceremonial center, and then you have all of these like little houses around, and it's just really cool. And that church, I normally I don't like churches. I don't like to go in them. There's
Gets
a
hot inside when Shannon goes in.
What?
Gets hot inside there when Shannon goes into the church. Starts warming up.
There's just something scary, but that goes back to my childhood. But there's something scary about churches. But I went in this, and as soon as I walked in to the right, there was this altar for Saint Kateri. So do you like, is your family Catholic? Do they?
Yes. And my aunt, Lupita, was actually, when we were there, because she wasn't a saint yet, and she was like actively like praying to like get her a sainthood, and would get together. And she was, and it's weird because like they're Catholic, but like my Nana and my dad are kind of like no religion, because it was like bus. Like my grandpa, like they weren't just on a bus. Like my grandpa was on a bus and people would follow them and like give them gifts and listen to my grandpa speak, but it wasn't a cult. I'd like to clarify. It was just people following them around and listening to him speak and following his guidance. But she was praying for Kateria, and she was excited because I had just gotten confirmed, and my patron saint that I picked for confirmation was Kateri Tekakwitha. And at the time, she wasn't even a saint. She was just Blessed Kateri Tekakwitha. She got canonized, I think, in 2012. And so they weren't, you're only supposed to pick a saint, but they weren't going to stop like the only Native girl they knew and the only Native girl in this classroom picking the only Native person that they had. So no one said shit. I got to do what I wanted, which is not normally how that works. So I got Kateri, and I was very excited. And
I'm showing a picture of it real quick.
Okay. And well,
did I mess you up?
No, I'm looking at her too. I have a really complicated relationship with her now because I picked her, and then the more I thought about it, and we talked about this, and it's around, there's like complications around her sainthood, in that like religion was a big reason, and a big reason, put quotes and resource for the real reason, of colonization on Turtle Island and of Native peoples, and so it's a really complicated relationship when you pick someone who was a part of this colonization and what colonization was colonized in a way, and you lift them up and you're excited about them as a saint. And so I felt really strange about it for a while, and then especially because she doesn't get to control her narrative or her sainthood or any of that. And so as I grew older, I was kind of confused about why I picked her and how I felt about Catholicism and how I felt about her and how I felt about my selection of her. And recently, I like re-embraced her a lot, just because it's not fair that like I would feel complicated when so many people have been through so many different things, and so many Native people have had so many different experiences, and I don't want to discount her because of that. And so now I kind of like carry her with me. And I found the necklace. I went to find it because I talked to you, because I was wearing I got a Kateri necklace when I got confirmed, and I was wearing it I had a bunch of meetings this summer, so I was wearing it for every single meeting. I would wear it, and I'd be like, all right, like, bitch, we're going to do this together. Like, we're doing it. So I took on like a re-honoring of her and the way I felt about her, because she's a complicated person, and our relationship with religion and our relationship with indigeneity and with her, it's also complicated. And I don't want to dismiss her because of this huge thing that was happening then. And so I have a lot of like feelings on her. And what's weirder is I was looking, and the saint she chose, I guess, was Saint Catherine of Siena, which is the saint my mom named me after. So I was like, oh, this is fucking weird.
I think you did the right thing there.
Saint Valentine, that's a good one. I just saw I picked Saint Valentine.
Yeah, Lance picked Saint Valentine. Well, isn't that sweet? I don't know.
He's a lot of drama. He's like, he was like, Rome, we're going to have a wedding. And like, I believe in God. And we're going to have like a Jesus wedding. And Rome was like, kill him. We had to learn a lot. I went to Catholic school. And then I went to Catholic school K through 8th. And then I was like, I don't think I'm into Catholicism. And then I went to a non-religious school, 9 through 12. And I was like, religion seems okay. Jesus, he like seems really into communism.
These are some heathen ass motherfuckers around here. I'm out of here. I'm out of this bitch.
I started doing my own interpretation because no one was telling me anymore. I was like, Jesus seems to be really into yelling at capitalists and throwing things down and hanging out with like prostitutes and making people share. Like, I'm into all this shit, Jesus. Like, he goes and he knocks down the markets and he wants everybody, and he's like done with everybody, and and he hangs out with all his best friends. I don't know. He seemed cooler when I read about Jesus as opposed to when I was being told about Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your perspective on the world there, Sienna. And I think that had to do with your grandma and your grandpa a lot. So do you like return? I'm echoing and I'm hearing my voice.
Yeah, it's you.
Hopefully Sienna's not.
I don't hear your echo at all.
See, I'm not hearing it at all now. And I forgot what I was going to say, but your grandma and your grandpa. So sometimes they're always who I go back to when I forget stuff, and when life gets tough. How, with the world you live in Los Angeles and the kind of work that you do, how do you stay close to culture? How do you remember the things that they taught you? Or
I mean,
take them with you.
Because you have that big mix too. You know, you have that Catholicism mix with your native mix, and you know, powwow scene, and then you live in the middle of LA. So I mean, yeah, how do you like sort all that out?
I was never that like worried about it, just because I've always been very close to my family. Like I said, my Nana lives like up the block, and before pandemic, I would just walk up there and hang out, and she would go through like, she's really into like dating things back. So she's got all these historical books of our family members and pictures. Wow. And then she'll show me books. She won't lend me anything anymore because I lost her copy of Smoke Signals years ago, and I told her I'd find her a new one at Amazon because I was borrowing it. So I need to order her a new one because she was just like, so I'll read them like when I was there, and like when I used to go there. I haven't gone there since pandemic because like, you know, she's old. And my super nana used to visit. We talk to her and we go see family. And the new part of this is learning Choctaw language, which I'm been excited about, and definitely feels like something that I should have done a long time ago, and I'm really glad I'm doing now. And so really I think it's about staying close to family, because like you go there and she's got so much history and so many stories. And I mean, she also just keeps trying to feed you corn dogs, because she's just like, you want a corn dog? I'm gonna eat a corn dog. I'm not supposed to eat a corn dog. And you're like, all right, like I'll eat a corn dog. She's a lady. My nana's fun, but she's also a lady with an agenda. So if you get there, you're on her agenda. And if it's eat corn dogs while she tells you about history, you eat corn dogs while she tells you about history. Yeah. And so it's definitely that, but I've never been super worried about it, just because like I grew up in LA, right? And my cousins, so I've got my native cousins and I've got my closer native cousins. And then on my mom's side, like my cousins are half Black and my other cousins are part Japanese. And so growing up, I thought that was kind of the way life was, is that people had lots of different religions, lots of different races, lived all over. And I grew up in LA, and my school was like, we had bunch of different races, and it was a Catholic school, but like there were kids who were Jewish, there were kids who were Muslim. I just thought that's the way life was. And then as I got older, I found out people don't just have cousins who are Japanese and cousins who are Black, and you're the cousin who's Native American. That's not like a normal like situation. And I think it's becoming more and more normal. But like as a kid, I really grew up. All these things existed like at the same time and didn't cancel out or invalidate each other. And definitely because like my parents were very open about talking about things and very open about history and family and all that. And my Nana was very much about like making sure we knew our Native history. Also very worried, because you bring it back to your grandpa and grandma, that we would be sheep. They really didn't want us to go to school. I found out recently that when my parents decided to send me to school, she did a book, I guess. She ordered an astrologer to do a book of my astrology so my parents would know how to raise me. And I looked through it recently and I was like, what? And I have to say, I was never really like it's been a different experience for all of us. My sister's experience, my brother's experience are very different. Just because growing up, especially, I couldn't really hide that I was Native. People were always like, "Where are you from? But where are you really from? But where are you from originally?" Or "What are you?" was another one. Some people are just blatant. "What are you?" Or like, so it was definitely like not something something that was very present in my life and that people could see, and that affected the way that I related to it and how much I wasn't stressed out about it. Whereas my sister, she's got like green eyes and she's got like golden skin. She's much prettier than me, so she has that going for her. But like growing up, like people would question her when she'd bring it up and talk about it, or like she was like, I tweeted about this, but she was in a Thanksgiving play when she was a kid, and for some reason the teacher wanted to cast her as the Puritan and this white girl as the Native American, and it really bothered my sister for years because for like ever, Chandler was like, "Is it bad that I'm Native?" So she had a very different experience. And then my brother's 12 years younger than me, and my Nana and I are both very now aware of culture, and because now I'm older now I have a legitimacy, which I don't think I have. And so he's pale. He is a pale boy, but he's just as much Native as me, and he is very like proud of it. He's different from my sister because she struggled with finding that pride and feeling okay with herself. He's very proud, and so I don't think he's watching. He's not watching. He has things to do. He's 14. He's 15. My mom was like, oh, because my mom's white. My mom was like, he wants Native shirts about being proud about being Native because there's all those cool urban Native shirts and everything like that, like Urban Native and NTVS. And she was like, can you buy him one? Because he doesn't want one from me. He doesn't want one from his white mom about feeling proud about being Native. So I was like, yeah, I can order some Native shirts. And she's like, thanks. Like, that's what I got. So I got him like a hoodie from the NTVS, and my sister got him a shirt, I think, from the Urban Native era. Because he's very proud, and he's not shy about it, and he's pretty direct on like, it's weird looking at kids now because like I feel like I was always fighting with people as a kid, but like now, like as a kid, like you say something's racist, like kids don't like yell at you and get mad. Or if you say something sexist, like people don't go make a mean song about you being a feminist. They just go, oh, okay. And so he's very like aware of things.
Yeah. The whole different world we're growing up in now. That's
I grew up in the same way you did, Sienna, because I grew up in Inglewood, so I was like right there with you. And it was the same for me. It was like we had this mixed race family. We had this Native tone to everything that we did on one side of the family, and then the rest of the family was all of this Benetton looking type, family. And Benetton doesn't even exist anymore, does it?
I only know because UCB had a multiracial improv group called Benetton, and so that's the only reason I got your joke. But if that did not happen, your joke would just flip right over. It would have flew
right over you. But yeah, that used to be like the multiracial company of the 80s.
It was like Gap, but it was
like Gap, but they always had like different races were representing their line. So you'd picture, and there'd always be a black person, an Asian person, an Indian person, a Muslim person. You'd see all these different, religions and everything. It was a Benetton family or a Benetton world, they called it, or whatever. But anyway, yeah. I wanted to mention in the chat room, we had, I don't know if he's trolling us or if he's just, but Robert Noonan, who's been in the chat before, says, my nieces threatened to expose me as a fraud live on Red Hoop Chat if I don't direct $50 deposit monthly into her checking account. But after watching this show, I'm not afraid of that anymore. Thank you, Robert. We agree with you. I wouldn't worry too much about getting doxxed on Red Hoop Talk. You're probably not going to go very, very far.
And Robert Noonan and your niece, next week, we're having an open talking circle. So we're going to be sharing the link out. So you're
letting everybody come in.
Can actually come on live on camera and call you out for whatever. So,
so if you want to come and chat with us, and you're a hater, or you
may want to pay her $50.
But and if you do want to come on and chat with us, and you don't want to show your face, you could just turn the camera off. You can do the same. So
no, we have to see if I have to show my face on a Sunday night, then they can show their face too.
Okay. Okay.
That's just how it is.
So rule change, guys. Shannon says no turning off of the camera thing. You'll have to have the camera thing on in order to come on.
Well, yeah.
And then JD said, talking religion, Roy, I do understand the politics personally. I like the six grandfathers background. Just one person's thought. A person who understands I guess he was talking about, I changed my background from the six grandfathers last week to the Choctaw Mound because it's Choctaw night tonight. So I just wanted to put the Choctaw Mound up behind us.
Hey, let's give some kudos for, let me get it up here. For Sienna for some Chief Gary Batten. Let's see what's happening. What's happening in the Choctaw Nation? We've got.
Sorry. Go through. I was ready for...
Merry Christmas from Chief Gary Batten.
Where is it?
There he is.
I lost it. Wait, here we go.
The Chief's blog.
Oh, I'm so excited to get my new Choctaw calendar this year.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got mine already. Are you sure?
Astro Camp. The
All my
Choctaw
mail goes to my
Nation's
parents.
Astro Camp.
So I have to go to my parents' house to get my mail because I'm 5.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got, and we get a ornament every year, right?
Yes.
So we got our ornament this year. I forgot what it was anyway. My favorite has been the turtle. So when they did the turtle ornament, that's been my favorite. But
I like the rabbit the best, but that was.
Oh, I don't think I've gotten the rabbit. That must have been.
I think that was last year, the rabbit. All I know is that 2017, because I was finding this before, was the headquarters.
The headquarters ornament.
Yes,
of the Choctaw Nation. Yeah, our Choctaw Nation just seems to be rolling in the dough, giving us all ornaments every year and calendars and
that's
pre-print
cool
stuff.
I don't even get a newsletter anymore. They shut the newsletter down. We used to get a newsletter once a month. Now we don't even get the newsletter.
Well, you've got to, Sienna, have you been to the Durant casino, big casino complex with all the swimming pools? Have you been there? Obviously not. You would have known. So there's this
the COVID pools now they call them.
And I think there's movies or something. I don't know, but they've got this huge indoor, and then you can swim in your outdoor, and then there's other pools, and there's like jacuzzis all over the place, and there's all these people from Texas there. It's like all these white people from Texas. It's really weird. I took my son out there, and we had a great time. The pools were great, but man, that's a major center they've got there, casino. And I think they've got like 21 or 22 casinos throughout southeastern Oklahoma. So yeah,
that's why you can have ornaments every year, because there's 22 casinos. Maybe if we get one casino, I'll get a newsletter again.
it's the newspaper, the Biskinique. I still get that.
Yeah, Biskinique. Yeah. There used to be some folks that, because there's a long history in our nation of it being a little bit closed, like the voter rolls, the membership rolls. So if other people wanted to be in office of the Choctaw Nation, it was you couldn't get access to the rolls so that you could send out information to get people's votes. And so there's a group of folks whom I know who were involved in. This is way before your day, but does your grandmother ever talk about what's his name? He molested his employees. He was one of our chiefs for like 20 years. Hollis Roberts.
My grandma.
Hollis, I remember him.
But she does not like to talk about bad things. So it makes sense that I've not heard about it, because yikes.
Yeah, so my grandmother would always tell me, don't, stay away from Durant, stay away.
Watch out for the Hollis feller.
But I forgot what I was saying, but there's a lot of people that were trying to work, and they used comedy and humor to do that. So they made a pretend newspaper that I think was called the Bisquick, and they would put all these this rhetoric in opposition to our nation at the time. Really, some funny stuff there, and lawyers, and it was lawyers doing it. So it was pretty funny. But
funny lawyers.
There are a few out there. It's not me, but there are a few lawyers out there. But Sienna, don't go to law school. You're not planning to go.
Whoa, no. We don't want to do that.
I'm not. I'm kind of busy.
She's not. She's kind of busy.
Yeah.
She has a life. She wants to be liked in the future and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of people that come on our show always give us the secret. Well, I wish I would have been a lawyer, or I should have gone to law school. And, I want to tell people, no, you don't. We're happy that you are what you are. And we need more comedians. We need more people who tell stories, and that's what we need. And I'm glad you're out there in Los Angeles getting, you've never had anything get thrown at you on stage or anything like that, have you?
Physically? No.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I think verbally, I was like, yeah, physically, no, nothing physically thrown on stage.
Just heckling. Just
the regular heckling.
So JD, the chat room, JD, I knew what you meant. I love that background too. The six grandfathers that I have up here often. I just change it up every once in a while, but I know you didn't. You weren't telling me to change it. So no, that's cool, man. Don't worry about it. And then happy solstice, Lance says. It's the winter solstice time. The buffalo skull's out, and along with the Christmas tree in my house. So we have the buffalo skull on the table with the Christmas tree, and it is winter solstice time. Yes, the long nights, right? Long nights, storytelling time.
Storytelling.
Right, storytelling time.
So, Sienna, what kind of stories are you going to be telling in the future? What are your plans? What are you going to be in 10 years? What do you want to?
When you grow up, Sienna, what are you going to be?
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm pretty grown. Just kidding. I
want to be a TikToker.
I'm a comedian, and I'm a writer, and I'm an actress. And so I would like to be writing and performing in things. Not all things, but just some things I like to perform in, some things I wouldn't like to perform in. And I would love to be writing on a TV show. I also like writing movies, but TV is my favorite thing of all time. And it's got to be my favorite. And I'd love to really expand the types of people we see in television. Because I think if anything, television is a reflection of, I think if film asks questions about life, I think television's a reflection of life. And so when we watch TV, that's what normalizes the way that we accept and understand people and the way our world functions. And so the broader that television gets, the broader that just the general acceptance of what life is. And I would like to have more awful girls represented. I think that's important. I gave a speech one time at a film festival. I was like, I would like more dumb girls who make bad decisions. This is what the history that I know, and this is the life that I lead. And so my dream is to be writing and performing on a TV show, just because I'm a half-hour comedy. That's where I live. It's my whole thing. It's my whole life. And so that's my goal.
Nice.
I love it. I
like television too. And so I was a struggling young man. I was an actor in Hollywood too. I went to the Sanford Meisner School out there called the Playhouse West.
That's where my dad went.
Your dad went to Playhouse West?
My dad went to Playhouse West. Wow,
with Jeff Goldblum and gosh.
Yes, he loves to tell Jeff Goldblum stories.
I have some Jeff Goldblum stories myself, and Robert Carnegie was the other teacher there, and he was amazing. I don't know whatever happened to him. We were so it was funny. I just got out of the Marines, and I went to Hollywood and was doing all of the acting thing and waitering thing, and when Robert Carnegie. When I went to his school, he traded. I taught him how to shoot. I taught him marksmanship training in exchange for acting lessons, And that's how I got through my acting school, was teaching. He was really into firearms, and he found out I was a Marine, and he said, "Hey, I'd like to trade you class for class. You show me how to shoot on a range and shoot a rifle and shoot, and I'll give you your classes for free." So I was the guy that was like scooting around school for free because I was teaching the teacher how to shoot on the weekends.
Well,
But yeah, Uma Thurman went to that school. Oh my gosh, I think Charisse was in that school for a while, and there was just a lot of good people came out of school. Not me, I wasn't acting material, but I did learn how to go around the sets. And what I was getting at was, back in the 80s, when this was going on, way back in the 80s, I was in order to eat, we were all extras, and back then you had a pager, and we'd page each other, because the best craft service, the best way to eat at night, was to go to a television show, and we could sneak onto the television shows where we were doing the extra work, and we can eat off the craft service and get dinner there. So we always love the TV because we can get in there and go steal from the craft service.
Very different reason to love TV. However, food. I mean, it's not as good food as commercials, but it's more regular food, because I worked as an office boy for years. And so it's good food. Like, I won't say it's not.
Yeah, it was. It was good food. And it was free food. And we'd page each other and tell where the outdoor sets were so that we can get there and raid the craft service and hang out with our friends. And it was kind of that was just the way things were back then. But anyway, just another Roy story.
All right. I want to hear more about, I want to pull up your website, Sienna, and maybe you can guide me through it a little bit as far as what's there. I'm going to increase the size here so you look all big.
Well, that picture I took, the mom said, you need a picture where you look big so people will trust you. And so someone took that picture when I was doing a storytelling thing. And I was like, Mom, I did it. And she goes, big. She goes, you don't even fit on the stool. You don't look big there.
Well, and look at how big the microphone is.
I know. Apparently I don't look big in this picture. So not trustworthy, apparently. But this is like, the front page is just my bio page and just kind of goes over like where I've been and stuff like that. There's that stuff I can't include on it yet, but like it's a cool page. The next one is underneath About Me are the shorts that I've done. And so Lycanphobic was at NYU, you compete to make your short film. And so what happens is you pitch and they pick a certain amount to give money and equipment to. They give you $800 and then they give you equipment, and the equipment is very helpful, for making a short film. And so I made my short film Lycanphobic. I got picked to make it. It's about this girl, and she's got a werewolf boyfriend, and she wants to know if he's having sex with dogs or not. Back to bestiality, we've returned. And I learned so much, like writing that and directing it. And it went to the NYU First Run Film Festival, where it won an award for Best Actress. And then it went to, I wasn't in it, clarifying. And then it went to the LA Skins Festival, where it won. I didn't win. It was nominated for Best Emerging Artist. And so that was pretty cool. And I was very proud of that. And the short film below it is Sienna and Seinfeld, which is, I watched Julia and Julia, and I got really pissed off because I didn't agree with the point of the movie. It's a really good movie. It tricks you, but it tricks you into thinking it's okay that Julie does all of Julia Child's recipes, and then Julia Child's mad because Julie's not adding anything or understanding anything or furthering her understanding of cooking. And then Julie's like, it's only the Julia Childs in my head that matters. And I'm like, that is a nonsense thing to say. I can't believe years ago I agreed with you, Julie. I don't. I would be like if I told all of Jerry Seinfeld's jokes and then pretended like I was doing something when I was just saying his jokes verbatim. So I wrote a short film called Sienna and Seinfeld, in which I play a version of myself, and I play Jerry Seinfeld, and I tell all of his jokes, and then Jerry Seinfeld hates me in the end, but it's okay because it's only the Seinfeld in my head that matters. And so that was a parody film my friend and I shot last year, and we finished editing over the pandemic. And my friend Ben directed it, and I wrote and was in it, and it was definitely a really good experience.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
Very fun. And then underneath shorts is my storytelling section. And that just has one of the two videos of me doing storytelling, actually, because I did storytelling for Tesh de Luna and I did storytelling for BuzzFeed. And the Teatro de Luna is about me being a hypochondriac. We haven't talked about that a lot, but like I'm a hypochondriac. And so it talked about me going to the doctor. And when I go to the doctor, I am convinced I have a yeast infection in my throat. But it turns out I just didn't brush my tongue enough. And the doctor told me that maybe I should get some help. And I cried at the doctor's office. So that is that story. And beneath it is my story for BuzzFeed, which was the story that almost got blown up a little more, but it didn't. And so I basically was a bridesmaid for my cousin, and I didn't get my dress hemmed because my nana was at the res and she was going to hem it. And then I forgot to ask her when she got back. So I tore my dress and I walked around trying not to trip. So the story, my favorite is that someone in the YouTube comments, it's definitely fun reading YouTube comments about yourself. They're like, she's definitely lesbian. She's got a heavy Brooklyn accent. And I'm like, these things are not true. Who's made these decisions?
And they're so sure of themselves too when they make those comments.
Yeah, they're like, that's obviously what it is. And I'm like, what? But one person was like, this story is girl didn't get her dress hemmed. Girl rips it a little. The night ends. And I was like, this person caught me. That is the story. I have a joke that it's correct. So I mean, storytelling though, I have stand up, which my only like set that I've recorded right now that isn't like, especially because things have been online and I haven't been recording stand up lately, was from when I was at the Comedy Union with the phenomenal Homegirl Showcase, which had like Danielle Perez on it and Marlena Rudy. It had a lot of really cool people on it. And so it was a really good set. And it was my first like 8-minute set that I had done.
Wow.
And so it was a good set. And I like the set. It's got like some of my earlier stuff on it because it's old. Like I have a story I tell about, I thought I was bi, my mom didn't. So I went home with this girl who was like tall and blonde and she looked like my mom, I realized, but like, and I yell at the audience. That's not something I want to unpack right now. And we went home and took off her shirt and I saw her boobs and I thought mine were better. And that's like the joke is that's not what you're supposed to think. If you really are bi, you're not thinking like, oh, I like mine better. Incorrect thought to have. So that's what that is. Underneath that is articles, which I cleaned up that section because it's gotten a lot better recently. So I recently did some talking for Uprocks about tokenization, and I got to be in the LA Times with a tweet on Indigenous Peoples Day, and I was in the Native American Comedians to Follow, and there's the Bisknik. I made Bisknik. I put that in there.
Oh, there is that. Yeah.
Screenshotted that and stuck that in there. I was like, how do I share this? I can't source it. Like the other ones all clicked to someplace, but I just posted the whole article because I was very proud of being in that newspaper. And then so basically there's pictures of me. There's the ways to contact me, which has like my manager's information. There's shows, which gives links to my shows. And the reason I didn't direct you to click on Big Feetsies was because that will take you to a different YouTube where Sienna and Seinfeld is. And my friend and I have been like animating and writing shorts and putting them there. And so if you click on Big Feetsies, it'll just take you to a whole nother page.
Okay.
But that's where we're putting, like, we did a Penguin Taxes short and we did a Dinosaur Shakespeare short. And right now we are talking about doing a Planet short. And if you click on shows, that will, it links you to like when I have shows that are coming up and what's going on. So like the top one is one I just did for the Westchester Community College, which was my first 45-minute show, which was really cool. I had never gone for 45 minutes before.
You got Association on American Indian Affairs there. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that people could click and go see it, because I got to make things easy if I want anyone to see my jokes. I'm not going to make it hard for you to find things. I got to make it as easy and as clear as possible. So that's my website.
I love it. It's very well put together.
Thank you. It's taken a while.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then I saw a post recently on your Twitter. I have got to post. So here's your Twitter.
This is my Twitter.
Let me make it bigger because I love this one, the t-shirt that your mom sent you.
Yes.
Your parents.
My parents, we all know my mom bought it. But yes, it says a woman's place is in the House and the Senate, and I like to wear high-waisted pants, so when I tuck it in, it just says a woman's place is in the House. So it's a difficult shirt for me to wear out because it has a very different suggestion if you tuck it in. But it's one of my favorite shirts, so I have a very complicated relationship. And it was actually pretty cool when that tweet blew up. I'll just say it because whatever, I'm obnoxious. Because that tweet was there for a little bit, and then Chelsea Peretti retweeted it and followed me. So that's why it has so many notes, because she boosted it. Not because like that sat there for years. I was like, this is a funny joke. It's going at the top of my Twitter. and then she boosted it. So now that's why it has RTs and likes.
Nice.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And then I had
You
a big.
said. Go ahead.
Oh no,
Go
my
ahead.
friend was like, you should message her and thank her. And I was like, that's weird. People just want to be left alone. They want to go on Twitter. They want to retweet things they like, and they want to be left alone. I don't think she wants a message from me. So that was a big thing that my friend and I were fighting about. But
Yeah,
sorry.
it's like, yeah, I pushed a button and retweeted. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, yeah. What is the proper protocol? I mean, I get people sending me Facebook and Messenger and Twitter and of course the association as well. It's kind of weird, these strangers who want to talk with you.
Ugh.
It's so I've had a little trouble like trying to balance that.
I mean, I totally agree with you, because like I don't think she'd want that, because like I get some messages, and some messages are welcome, like, oh, I like your thing and it's funny, and sometimes messages are strange, and I just don't think anyone wants to talk to people. They just don't want to be left alone to scream into the internet void. Isn't that what the internet is for?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You're right.
then I actually work in another section of the internet, and it's a very dangerous section of the internet, and it's personal information, like we know who you are kind of stuff. And it's very, very weird and very, I guess, there's a whole nother, it's like I find it weird that I was never worried about anybody knowing my name or where I drove to go home or any of that stuff. But now on the internet, it's like, oh my gosh, these people have my address. Oh my gosh, these guys have personal information about me, and they're going to put it out on Twitter, or they're going to put it out on Facebook, or they're going to try and, tell people where I'm working or what I'm doing, and it's a weird feeling. It's almost like people holding a gun to you almost, and doing it behind. It's very strange when people do that to you. Especially in the other world that I operate in, which is and I was going to ask you that question. You said something about tokenization, and what did that mean? Were you talking about?
Oh, well, Uproxx did article with Indigenous comedians talking about what it feels like to be tokenized and what that means around Thanksgiving time. And so it was about tokenization and being tokenized, and what that experience is like, and how we fight against it and how we stop it from happening, but also like times where it's affected us and been difficult to deal with. And so that was with Uproxx, which is pretty cool. But definitely the internet's a weird, scary place. There was a guy who messaged me. I blocked him on Instagram. It was too much. He was like, oh, I see that your windows don't have any. They're both missing like two of the things. Like I had missing things, but then I thought I had a stalker. But then I just accepted my imaginary stalker. And I was pretty sure that he was the guy who put my pictures on WikiFeet, because I had a bunch of pictures on WikiFeet that I found recently, which was alarming. Because I was trying to figure out who it was for my Instagram. I was like, someone's doing this. So I put a picture up of myself, but I blacked out my feet. And then he wrote, what's wrong with your foots? And I was like, it's you. You're the guy, I think you're the guy. So I finally blocked him.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, that's not good.
No, and also they put them on WikiFeet, but they said my feet are bad to good. So like, don't put them up if you're just going to put them up and then just insult them. This is so rude.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of fodder there. I think Lance has asked a question. If you've ever gotten kicked out of Facebook or Twitter for saying something, can they?
No,
I've been put in jail.
You've been put in jail? Real jail?
Like literally?
Well, no, Twitter jail or Facebook jail for comments.
Hmm.
Yeah, they shut you down for a little while. Yeah.
No, my
my YouTube channel's been shut down.
Your YouTube channel's been shut down too?
Oh yeah.
Not ours.
I run a different. No, not this one. I run a different type of show. It's even worse than this one.
It's a wonderful, and they would never do that.
They would never do that. But yeah, my other show has had some troubles in the past.
Jail. I didn't know there was a Twitter jail. Sienna, have you been in the Twitter jail?
No, I don't get in trouble for the only person I get in trouble from is my mom, who is she'll call me and she'll say that that's bad or that's not good, or I shouldn't post that, or I shouldn't be doing. I got in trouble for writing a fake Christmas letter. You know, people send out Christmas letters. Put one on my mom's Facebook where I it was just about my sister getting exercised, and like 3 girls from her high school deleted her on Facebook. And she was like, so I got in trouble for that. And I got in trouble. My mom was looking at my Twitter because I told her I had lots of good jokes up lately. And she was like, a lot of these might be red flags for future relationships. And I was like, Mom, it's not red flags. Just straight
How
up.
are you supposed to find a good man when you're posting shit like this?
Oh, Mom.
I think I need to talk about how sometimes you think you're going to get married and then you don't. And it's fine. And my mom was like, stop posting that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've never been in the real Twitter jail. I've had friends who've been in the real Twitter jail. And I've known people who've been in the real Twitter jail, but I've never been in Twitter jail. So are you free from Twitter jail currently?
Yes,
or?
I am currently free. I'm out. I'm on parole. And I'm on
feel like
parole on
Pollyanna
YouTube
right
also.
now.
What's that?
I feel like a Pollyanna right now. I didn't even know there was a Twitter jail. I thought Trump was the only one that got put in some kind of Twitter jail or timeout.
No, they will
had
suspend your
timeout.
account for a certain amount of time if they don't like what you've done or said, or if you cross some line somewhere in some imaginary sand line that they've drawn. And but it's censorship, you know, and that's what I'm not liking about. There's so many different platforms. We stream to different platforms here, and now they're in control of the content. So now they're almost turning it. So this internet was this free place for us to all, you know, get on and do our thing, like Red Hoop Talk. It's something that we haven't been able to do before. You know, this is an indigenous, you know, kind of a gem here where we can all get on and talk all our Native experience, talk our, say whatever we want. But now, you know, because the media would censor all of these things and would only allow, you know, certain Native stories and things that they wanted to come out. So now we can actually tell our stories here. And now there's censorship going on. And not with us, not yet, but in other forums, I've seen it.
I totally know what you're talking about. I feel really mixed on it because, like, there's a lot of danger on the internet, and like right now, like the internet must always be free. But I wonder if that's like people who always thought guns should be free and accessible. And so, like, if one day I'll be like 100, and my grandchildren will be like, "No, we need to monitor the internet, Grandma," and I'll be like, "The internet was built to be free. Everyone should be able to post whatever they want, whenever, and no one should stop it." So I'm wondering, like, I wonder how that will change as the internet becomes more and more powerful. Because, like you said, people have your personal information to try and dox you, or like all this other ways that the internet like functions and monitors us and grows. And so how does that function in the future? And it's amazing because, like, as natives, like, I'm taking Choctaw lessons and also hearing all different natives in general on Twitter, like talking and sharing their experiences and their understandings of the world is all amazing, right? But then, like, so that's connected and made things grow and people learn so much more. But also, like, there's a dark side to these things. And so, like, what's going to happen when I'm 90 and my grandson is saying, "We have to monitor the internet, Grandma," and I go, "No, never." This is what I think about in my spare time.
But I feel the same way, Sienna. That's where I know that there's a lot of freedom, and there's been a lot of, I think that a lot of these things that are happening now, because when we were, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, when we were talking about the mascot issues, and we were talking about, you know, the different things that are going on in Indian country, we were like talking to each other. You know, there wasn't a real big forum for us to speak to, because the mainstream media, news outlets, all that, they told the Native story how they wanted to tell it. They told what was going on, how they saw it. And it was never how we all saw it or how we all talked in rooms about it. And we were all frustrated. So now we have this place where we can, boom, now we can get it out however we want, and we can hear everybody's stories. And it's like all of this enlightenment with all of us going, yeah, now we're all together, and there's Indians across the nation talking and saying, "Hey, yeah, we have the same story as you, and isn't it awesome that we're all united now, and we can do things like Keystone and all meet, and everybody can coordinate and get there and make a big deal out of it, and we can influence those vendors that wanted to pressure the Washington football team to finally change that name." So all of this stuff has come because of the internet. But you're right, there's this dark side, and it's getting stronger too, because I know a whole platform that has been taken over by white supremacists, or not necessarily just white supremacists, but they have this America First thing.
Yeah, white supremacists.
They're white supremacists, so they're Nazi light, but all their followers are hardcore, and so they are being pumped up by this stuff and drummed up, and they're getting stronger too. So like you said, I see the same thing. I'm looking at it going, man, this thing is good, but then there's some really bad going on too, so how are we gonna balance this out? How's this gonna end up? How is this going to end up one day, And I feel the same way you do. 90 comes a lot quicker for me than you, but I do. I feel the same way.
But yeah, I mean, on Twitter, I think my favorite Twitter right now is Megan. She's Choctaw Sovereignty Hobbyist on Twitter, and she's I guess she's studying law, and she's got she's talking a lot about like the freedmen and everything going on right now, and she shares history all the time. And like I message her because this is the person who I'll message. I'll be like, your Twitter is very good. I said, that's the message. You don't have to respond. That's it. And she was like, thank you. And we didn't talk anymore. But there's like so many people on there like sharing like important and thoughtful takes. Me, I'm mostly talking about being dumped and my recent thoughts on Game of Thrones. But there's also people saying important things.
Right. We need it all.
Yeah.
And I can't answer the TikTok question. I'm sorry, because I'm not super on TikTok. My roommate is always showing me TikToks. She loves Corpse Husband, and she's showing, and that's what she talks about all the time. I don't know if Roy, do you know who Corpse Husband is? Because I know you're on TikTok.
I don't know who. I gotta now. I'm like, okay, who's Corpse Husband?
He streamed with AOC, and they raised money playing Among Us, and no one knows what he looks like. And so that's my big exposure. Like, I've seen some of native TikTok because I'll have friends send me stuff and stuff. But the biggest thing I see is my roommate is like, you got to look at Corpse Husband. He's getting all the followers. And I'm like, who is Corpse Husband? What is the future? This is how I know I'm aging. Thank you for that. I'm worried about being a grandma who looks strange one day. But yeah, I feel old when I hear that Corpse Husband is with AOC raising money through Among Us. It makes me feel very old.
Well, we'll try to make you a TikTok star here soon, Sienna. When I'm listening to you, I keep thinking about this book. I'm serious right now. I'm gonna share it. I pulled it up. It's a book I read and I loved. And what I loved about it is that it talks like you talk. So there's something about...
Oh, frozen.
Of talking.
Frozen.
What's that?
Am I back?
Yeah. No, that was Shannon. Well, you guys all froze, I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Okay. So Oklahanali is this great book, and it has I don't know what to call it, but it's the type of style that it's just like one big long run-on sentence that just keeps going.
Oh,
it is amazing. You're gonna
strike three. Boom.
You're gonna read this, Sienna, and you're gonna fall in love with this because it's like, oh my God, I'm so connected to this style because that's exactly what I'm hearing from you. You're telling a story and you just keep going and you're going. And that's what I was used to growing up too. So I'm just like listening to you, and I'm a little bit like flabbergasted because it's like I'm hearing other people in my head as you're talking, and this book is great in that way because it really shares that style of storytelling. So you got to get it, Oklahanali.
No, I'll definitely. 6 people, very excited. I'm learning so much. But no, I definitely want to read it, especially because I'm trying to expand like on the native texts I've been reading and stuff, like for my own sake, just because I think it's important.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a great book, and I almost want to read it again because it's just great to see that style of writing because I've never seen anyone write like that before. Write like an old Choctaw woman or a young Sienna talks just on. It's great. So how many times have I insulted you so far now?
That's 3.
Not 3, but like
Only 3.
Not even close to my mom. Not even close to my mom. I'm used to so much work. I'm used to only insults, and also all your insults are also functional compliments, so it works. I'll take them all. I'll take insult compliments any day. You're talking a run-on sentence, but I like it. I'm like, done. I'll take it. If I can take insult
It's teasing,
man. Lance said that's a good modern contemporary Indian name. Run-on sentence.
And it's great. I love getting resumes and cover letters and stuff from folks because it's the same. It's like, oh, I know how to read this, but not a whole lot of people do. It's like, where's the period? So, all right, what else are we going to talk about tonight? What do y'all do for Christmas? Do y'all do like a regular tree kind of thing? And
this year we're not. This year is gonna be different, obviously. But normally, it's a tree. Normally, a tree. We normally don't leave LA, just because like my mom's a teacher, and so the break isn't that long, so she has to get back into it like ASAP. But like we just stick around, and my mom puts up a tree. My family puts up a tree, and we hang out. My nana comes over, then she gets tired, then she goes home. So, and my cousins come over, and we all just hang out, and then they go home, and it's normally just like a chill day. Like we're not super wound up about anything.
Yeah.
So it's like a chill, nice day that normally we spend with family and stuff, and we do like an LA thing, especially if you have family in other areas a lot, is you do Christmas parties with like other people's families. It's like 8 families from your 8th grade class. And so they all get together, and we do like a white elephant with a bunch of other families that I know. And as I've grown up, I've been able to talk more and more like I was a child there now. And now he's like, oh, line producing on this TV show, da 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 da. And I'm like, yes, I understand, because when I was on this TV show and we had the budget, it was like da 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 da. So I'm now get to speak like an adult, which is getting more and more exciting. That people listen to me like a full person.
A full person. You're
not just a 14-year-old, right?
Not just a 14-year-old. Although, like, I really don't look. I agree with that. I don't look that different from when I'm 16. It's not much has changed. I think I've like lost a little bit of weight in my face, but like that's it. Like everything else has pretty much been the same. Like I got boobs like in 8th grade. It just didn't change after that. So that was my life.
Yeah. Just give it 40 years and then come talk to me.
I will. But also, there was a joke in here earlier. I'm super worried I'm just going to look like a 14-year-old who's had who's like tired and has had like a rough life, and they'll be like, oh, that 14-year-old's seen some shit. Like I won't look and I want to look like an elegant adult who like makes elegant decisions. This is elegance, apparently. It's stretching your arms out to the sides.
Well, you've got to flick your fingers. You got to like do stuff with your hands. Yes, you've got to like
elegance.
Yes. Don't you do that, Roy, to be elegant? Or maybe that's Vanna White. I don't know what the hell. What do I know about elegance? That's the last thing that anyone from Oklahoma knows.
To bring it, I guess, I don't know if we want to talk about more stuff, but like in casting, especially, it's weird because like I look young, and I go out for a lot of like Latinx people who run away and they're going over their head, or young mad Native girls and stuff like that, and it doesn't necessarily work because like my energy is not like aggressive in that way. It's very jokey and chaotic. And so one time I was auditioning, and the casting director was like, no, you gotta do it this way, because I feel like who you really are. And that really bothered me for years, because I was like, that's not who I really am. And especially when I think of like Native people who've been through shit, like no one's sitting around glowering, pissed off all the time. They're funny and bright and loud people who will also get in your face. And that's not like people don't walk around like colonization, like that's not real. And so it's definitely been like weird. I also don't have that elegant energy, but no one ever asks me to have it. It's just something I want.
We're having trouble with your internet now.
Yes, Sienna, Are you you have a big PDF book.
No, I closed all my PDFs. I'm gonna move over a little bit closer, I guess, to where I normally to like the closer of this. See if this helps you at all. No PDF books that I was reading today, even though it's been an interesting experience. Is this better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, we'll keep going regardless. So we'll get through it. So what else are you reading? Is there anything you can tell us about where we're going to see you in the future, or is that too?
Not right. I mean, because everybody knows how much things are. I mean, I guess everybody doesn't know. Things are always pending and changing and growing. I've been doing meetings, I've meeting people, and it's been a really great experience to have a manager who I really love. And I was very excited to recently have done the 45-minute set for Westchester Community College, which was my first time doing 45 minutes. And I talked. It was for Native American Heritage Month. And so I had my regular jokes, where I do my normal storytelling. I briefly mentioned the story about the girl and stuff like that that I went home with, and I can't remember her name, so I'm very sorry to her. And I have a long piece about cults, but I also talked about my super nana and stories about her, and stories about my dad and our experience in growing up, and stories about how as a Native person, because I wanted to fuse it all together. You have to always be on your toes and always be ready to talk about Native stuff whenever. No one talks about that, but you always have to be ready to go. And so one time I was with this guy, and we had just hooked up, and we were sitting in bed, and he turned to me and he said, "Sienna, I'm not privileged. I had family in the Holocaust." And I was this is not, I don't want to, and I was we can talk about mutual genocide if you want, but do you want to do this right now? I can, I'm down. If you want to talk about intergenerational trauma that we experience, we can talk about it. And he paused, and then he was no. And I was yeah, I didn't think so. And so I tell that story to talk about how I know everyday life, you just have to be ready because people will just start talking to you about it. I've had people talk to me at the grocery store or teachers or whatever. And so what was really cool about this set was I had a friend, and he was "Are you talking about enough Native stuff?" Because that's kind of part of the reason they're having for Heritage Month. I'm at the end, I'll just say I'm a full person, and this is part of the understanding of Native people. But then the guy was "I'm so glad you did that," and showed us how we're all full people with experiences. And I was chill, he's already on the page, so I can say all the jokes I need to about my family, about Native shit, and also about my own shit. I say shit a lot. It's a collective word. And so
my favorite
it really
word.
It's such a good word. It can mean so many things. Good
so
shit.
many things.
It's a powerful
and
word.
it keeps you away from fuck. So it's it gives you the inference you want, but you don't have to. You can use fuck just you could sprinkle that in salt, but shit is your meat and potatoes. I love that word.
I 100% agree with you right now. It's just a nice basis word to have, like a potato.
And it keeps fuck real, and it's you can still talk about shit all the time, and shit just is in everything, good shit, bad shit, just, yeah. And then, it's my favorite word. It's my meat and potatoes.
It's an amazing word, and I agree with you. So the 45-minute set was cool, and I'm about to do, this isn't professional, but this is something I want to do, and it's important to me. I'm about to do a storytelling class for the Compton Girls Club. They're Christiani, she runs it, she's the best, and it's about young girls in Compton and about having access to professional tools for the future. And so I'm going to do a storytelling class where I talk about movie structure and how that works, because I think it's important to have those tools. And so that's something that I will be doing in the future, which is pretty cool and exciting.
Sweet.
All right, Lance is sharing.
I saw Ariel.
Ariel. That's a very specific word, though. Shit is adjustable. It's it moves, it flows, it ebbs, and everything. Areolas is
yeah.
Oh, not you don't get the community you want. You get the community you deserve. Love our chat room.
Yeah. I'm just the holidays are rough. I usually always spend this time with my in-laws. I hope they're not listening. I don't think they would be, but oh, it's always very stressful, and usually it ends up in an argument. And
That's the culture, though. I hate to say it. That's just like my family's the same way, because I'm, married to my wife, and I'm married to her family, and because she's the woman of the family, it's like we spend a lot of time with her side of the family, and it is every holiday is stress. Her and her mom, they fight every day, all week long before an event. Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever it is. It's like they're on the phone yelling at each other, trying to put off the event or put the event on. And of course, this Thanksgiving, we didn't have one. So it was just the arguing and fighting about not meeting for Thanksgiving, So I think it's just part of the culture, Shannon.
It's usually me fighting with the father-in-law. Usually we're the ones getting into it.
That's because of you. Because you just can't get along. You just want to buck the system.
But so I'm kind of glad that we're all staying at home. We're just taking it easy. We're chilling out. We'll do some Zoom calls or whatever with family. To me, I'm really hoping that we can all take some time to rest and recoup and think of some more funny jokes. And by the way, Sienna, I keep like going back and forth in myself going, should I ask her if she has a good Indian joke she wants to share? Or is that like putting her on the spot? Or
I mean, my native jokes are more about like my experience as a native person, but like obviously like I have like a Christopher Columbus joke making
you
fun of
gotta have like some one-liners, right?
I'm not. Well, the problem is I'm not really a one-liner function in my story.
Yeah, remember that run-on sentence, Shannon?
Right. Okay, so but a one-liner,
one-liner that's a paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, Christopher Columbus discovering America is the equivalent of me going into a Ralph's, going on Yelp, writing that I found the best Chinese food restaurant in the country, then knocking over their red box and taking a piss on it before I leave and stealing all their peaches. Like that's all he did. Like that's the equivalent. And so like, I mean, the problem is most of my humor is storytelling based. Like I'm trying to think if I have any real one-liners, because I personally like when I have like. I really love Jerry Seinfeld because I don't tell jokes like him. Like when I look at my humor, I fall much more into like Hannah Gadsby's section of humor in the way that she builds and develops tension. Because I've shortened all of my jokes. These are all longer stories that I've been telling and bringing up for her. But like I'm very much a believer in playing with the tension of the room, to the point where one time I was doing the joke. I was at the there was an improv in Westwood and I was there, and I was telling the story about how I went home with this girl and she looked like my mom, and I'm not willing to unpack that, and I scream at the audience and I rip off my shirt and I just sat down for a little bit because you want to build that tension in the room. And it was the first time I ripped off my shirt in a show, and my roommate came and she was like, is Sienna okay? But I really wanted everyone to feel really like tense. And so I sat there and I just screamed at everyone that I wasn't willing to unpack what it meant that girl looked like my mom. And I sat down, and then I looked up at them and I said, so the girl and I went out, and the breath of relief afterwards and the humor and the laughter, because everyone was waiting. And I think a lot about like comedy and how it functions narrative wise, because comedy is really interesting in the fact that like you're always sourcing from something that always exists, but also in the fact that it's about building and releasing tension, which is why I think comedy horror is so difficult, because I very much like comedy and I very much like horror, but both those are about building and releasing tension. And I think a lot of it, like I love Scream Queens, about deciding your normal world and then playing on top of it. This is the kind of stuff I talk about for fun, like what the normal world is, so that way the audience knows where the tension's coming from and where the release is coming from. Because when you do horror and you're doing jokes and then you're doing horror, I think sometimes it gets confusing, because the payoff isn't necessarily the same. And so as an audience member, you're not sure what to experience and what to get. This is not what I'm talking about the girls about when I teach. I'm just going to talk about the promise of a movie and what that means in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. But like structurally, I'm really interested in how genre functions, especially as a comedian who likes to play with tension and likes to do storytelling. And very much in my comedy, some people are like observationalist. I think that's kind of where one-liners come from. I'm very much a character in that, not that I change who I am, but I very much understand how people see me, and you have to filter your response and what the expectation is going to be and play against what people are seeing on the stage, what they're experiencing, and then how that plays into your story. And so kind of that is very much like the way that I play in the, like, I love people who do like one-liners, and I think they're hilarious and amazing. I am a big fan of, I'm legitimately a fan of Jerry Seinfeld and the cleanliness of his jokes and the clearness and the specificity and the amount of work he puts into his jokes. Like, he won't do jokes about sex because he thinks sex is too easy. I can't help doing jokes about sex because I'm very much about my experience. But he's like, you got to write every single day. Oh my God, hold on. You got to write every single day. And you got to put your jokes in an accordion folder. And so everything that I have a joke-wise is in this accordion folder. And I write them down and I filter them in here, and then I'll go through them and I'll double check them or I'll revise them. It's a lot of stuff about how much I hate Elf on a Shelf. And the E section is full. But like, I very much admire his work ethic. And the problem is he has shorter things. Like when I write, it's like, this is the story. And it's like, it's a full page about feminism. That was what I just pulled out. Let me put it back in there.
That's beautiful.
How you hate Elf on the Shelf, huh?
Oh my God. I could go on for days about how much I hate Elf on the Shelf.
So last year, so I have a 4-year-old, and Elf on the Shelf didn't exist in our house. But Elf on the Shelf showed up for my 4-year-old. And my older kids, I have a 19-year-old son and I have a 15-year-old daughter, and they like got into it. So I would come in at night and like do horrific things to Elf on the Shelf and make, like Marine things that a Marine would do, like waterboard him and stuff like that. And, and so everybody would wake up with Elf on the Shelf doing these crazy things. And so we don't have Elf on the Shelf no more.
I agree. I do not like the Elf on a Shelf. There's a lot of analysis talking about how Elf on a Shelf is about like, and this is something I was reading before, socializing children to accept a future police state because they have no control over if the elf watches them or how the elf functions with them. And then they have to just accept that there's this surveillance thing, and then they perform for Elf on a Shelf. Like, they're not like, oh, what's good, what's bad. They're like, the elf is watching. And so I have a lot of issues with Elf on a Shelf. My aunt would ask me to stop because she used Elf on a Shelf. And I was like, no, I can't stop talking about the evil of Elf on the Shelf. And so the thing I want to do a show one day, and I haven't finished it, like a video, whatever, because I haven't had time to build it. But what I want to build is a little like guillotine, because the problem is we have to socialize children to overthrow their own oppressors. I think that's an important function. So like, I can't be the one knocking down Elf on a Shelf. The children themselves must reject Elf on the Shelf. So I will make a little child guillotine for the elves and like a little town square. And
I'll make one for you. One for you.
You gotta make it, and then it'll be like a commercial, and you'll be like, liberate your children, like Elf on a Shelf guillotine, and
his little head in a basket, laying there with his head in a basket.
Yeah, and town square like sold separately. This is what I spend my time. I have a drawing of it somewhere in this room because I've taken every Christmas. I hate Elf on a Shelf, and I worked on a show where I was an office PA because I did a lot of office PA work, and everyone knew I hated Elf on a Shelf. And the thing is, I don't know, like, I know Roy knows, but like on a TV show, like there's 12-hour shifts and everyone's working a different 12-hour shift. And so some people are there from like 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. and you all rotate your shifts around. And so one day a friend was there really late, and please do make that. But so one day a friend was there really late, and he printed out like 50 Elf on a Shelf pictures, and he hid them all around everywhere. So like I would open my pen and there'd be an Elf on a Shelf, and I'd open a book and and so what I started doing was cutting off their heads and hanging them on the office fridge. And so at the end of Christmas, like the executive producer came in and he's like, what is going on? Like, why are these heads hanging here? And I was like, they're doing this to me. And I found them, they were taped on my car. They were under my chair. I found elves on a shelf everywhere. And this sounds like a terrible Christmas film. In my car, in a chair, elf on a shelf everywhere. It sounds like a strange.
I just came up with such a good one. Such a good one now. I don't know if I should say it. I want to put him in an orange jumpsuit and have him on his knees sitting there blindfolded and have someone behind him with a knife. I just imagined that now. I'm like, got another one for Elf on the Shelf.
I'm not going to torture him, but I am into the justice of removing him.
It's not a torture. It's just they're just going to, That's
I
it.
think Roy, you're having some adult, some kind of anger that you need.
I don't like the thing. I didn't like it when it came in my house. I didn't like it.
The children taking it up and dismantling it. You're talking about something really gnarly. I'm not sure what it is.
I'm definitely emboldening something dark inside you. But yeah, and the last elf on the shelf that I found was months later, and I couldn't find it. And it had been rolled up. I tried to use a pen one day, and it had been rolled up inside my pen, and I realized the eyes were looking out at me. And that was the final elf on the shelf that I found. I do miss being I love set, and so I miss like that part. Everything right now is online, and meetings are online, and everything's online. But I so sincerely miss constantly being around people for too many hours. And I'd like to go back to that soon.
Yeah,
I do. I miss people. That's for sure. I'm back at work, but there's like a skeleton crew at my work, and so there's only like really a handful of people in the whole office. So like every like cubicle or office is separated, and you have to knock on the door to go to the bathroom, and you can't walk. If somebody's walking down the hallway, you have to wait in the alcove for them to go past, and then there's all these rules at work that you can't social, or you have to social distance. So I miss it. It's weird. It's been over a year now. It's like I want to be back around people again. There's no handshake, like the handshake, like when you meet somebody now, like it's the weird, like, whoa, wait, no handshake, fist bump or elbow or, what do they call it?
No, I just like, wait, don't try to touch me. What are you doing?
porn star handshakes, it's like.
What?
I was never touching, so I don't really know.
You never heard of a porn star? Well, when people meet on the guys meet on the porn set, they'll just elbows. They won't shake each other's hands. It's called a porn star handshake. You never heard of that?
I've not heard of that.
Okay, look it up. You'll see it.
Elbows called the porn star handshake, Roy.
Yeah, it's
so this is something more about you that
I work in construction field for many, many years. The guys, I've got a million more of them too. I mean, it's
the violence against Elf and the porn star.
I did some really good ones. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we did. Oh my gosh, me and my son, we just went after, and then my wife finally took out.
Wait a minute. Okay, we had Poppy. Poppy was a part of our home.
You had an elf on the shelf?
Not this year. This is the first year we've been without Poppy. Poppy, our elf.
Oh, so it's. See, we didn't have it for my other kids. We didn't have no elf. It was like.
Why are you out Poppy this year?
Well,
he's too old.
And I think my son's been too old for too long, but he just wanted to see how long we would do it for. He's 14 this year, so we've probably been doing it a few years too long. But and then we'd forget. I don't know if he's listening. We'd forget.
He doesn't care. He's 14. He doesn't care. He's as old as Sienna. He doesn't care.
I am 27 years old, and I'm gonna be 28 soon. And
Shannon's like, I'm just trying to set Sienna up with my boy.
Poor Sienna.
Oh. Well, that's cool about the elf on the shelf. I like that I'm not the only one that I got put in elf on the shelf jail. Well, elf on the shelf.
I did a lot of This wasn't actually my minor in college, but I was close to being like a child psychology minor, and so I was very into how identities and morality are formed, and how how there's different coding in media and what that means. And so like that's a big part of the way that I'm very critical and aware of children's media. I couldn't write children's media. It's definitely not a world that I function well in, because I tried a lot when I was in college, and my children's media professor was like, so this evil spider wanted to feel like Hannibal Lecter, and this is a kid's show. And I'm like, but it's funny. And he's like, I don't think that's gonna fly. Like, and I was like, why not? This is evil spider. And he's like Hannibal Lecter. And so I really do love I love analysis in general of film and television media in general, all of it, including children's. I think all of it is insanely valuable and important. And so I am the person that you will go see something with, and I'll be like, Cars 2 is deplorable. And they'll be like, why? And I'll be like, because of the function of how it talks about disability in relationship to the cars. And people will be like, oh, okay. And I'll be like, Boss Baby was incredible. People will be like, what? And I'll be like, I love its discussion of the function of capitalism and family relationships and how we grow with each other. And people will be like, what? And so I did love Boss Baby. I'm so excited for Boss Baby 2. Big into Boss Baby. I also like I watch everything from children's media. Like I think Steven Universe is an insanely important show, and like I'm super excited for like the native shows that are going to be coming out. Like we're going to get Spirit Rangers soon, which my friend Carissa is like she's show running, and I have a bunch of other friends who are writing on it and stuff. Like, and so I think that's going to be interesting and important and wonderful. So like I love like children's media, but I also like love adult media, and I like to talk about what I think is important about adult media. I like adult media and children's media. But I am a big person in the analysis. Like Little Shop of Horrors is something I watched it again recently, and I was like, I need to write an essay about its discussion on self-worth and its relationship to capitalism, and how that is illustrated from Little Shop of Horrors, in that she wants to go someplace that's green, and that green is money, but in that like capitalism is often about causing suffering, and that's why the dentist is so successful in Little Shop of Horrors, because he causes suffering, and that's why he can thrive in the world. But Seymour and Audrey can't understand they love each other because they exist in this world that doesn't allow them to see their own self-worths. If they would only see their own self-worth, they could love each other. And that's why as soon as he gives into this green plant, it devours his whole life, because it only takes and takes and takes. And that's what I want to write an essay about. So this is what I spent.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm back in college.
I miss college. I miss essays. I was good at them.
Oh my gosh. I remember we did this big thing in film or something with the Blade Runner. Of course, I think everyone does the Blade Runner.
Blade Runner's the big one.
Oh, and just going, oh my God, I've been watching movies. I've been watching TV all wrong. There's all this other stuff going on underneath, you know? Wow. You be careful, or you might just end up as a professor, which is not a bad thing. But, you know, you got some other things you want to do
when you grow up. When
I grow up. I mean, it's been an issue because, like, when I talk to people who read my work and they're excited about it and they're interested and they think it's fun, it's not an issue, but I'll just be like, they'll be like, oh, why'd this thing happen? And I'll be like, well, if we're discussing maturity and the function of that in the modern day, and then I'll be like, and that sources from this thing. And so like everything, I like it because it really influences the way that I do my art and my comedy, and the way that I watch and understand it. Mm-hmm. It's why I don't dismiss things. I like when something happens in a TV show, if it's coded in a way that is negative against natives or women or gay baiting or whatever it is, it's something that I know is purposeful because of how much time and effort is put into TV and media and film. Like if you look at Blade Runner, there's a lot going on there. And my favorite part of Blade Runner is the speech at the end, which is I used to like memorize and recite in the car because I thought it was really funny. But I think it's really important that the media we talk about, we're aware of and critical of. And even when you're writing it, when I write something, I have to ask, what does this say? And what does this mean? And what is the conversation we're having here? And so that's a big part of how I process. And so I'll send it to my parents. I'll be like, what do you think this is about? Like, what do you think the lesson is at the end? Do you think this is happening? And so I'm also critical of myself and when I choose to discuss things and when I don't. And I have like a friend, and like if he has like a native character or something, he'll like send it to me and he'll be like, what do you think? And I'll be like, oh, I think that this is not good. And I'll say, why? He'll be like, oh, okay, and we'll talk about it. I think it's important. Like, I don't think that means that things don't need to be watched. I'm not going to exile media that doesn't necessarily line up perfectly, but I think it's important to analyze how we engage with media and what that media says.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that is just so brilliant, Sienna. The fact that it takes so much effort to put all of these words together and then put them in actors' voices and put them on screen as some kind. The fact that people mindlessly say, oh, well, we weren't thinking about those things is a lie. Maybe it's just ignorance, but it's a lie nonetheless. That's a really good point, especially now.
Even like, because I don't think people necessarily say they didn't think about that. And sometimes you don't think about it and it comes from a subconscious place. It's why I like sequels a lot, because you'll write something in the first movie, and then in your second movie, you have to think about the lesson that you wrote and what that functionally means and how you can further grow on it. I think that's what Marvel does really well in their sequels, is their sequels are discussing further what they got into in the first movie and reanalyzing what's going on, right? And so, like, I'm not even talking about creators. I'm more talking about people who watch something and they'll see something good happen in a movie or a TV show, and they'll be like, that's on accident. And like, it's not an accident. I was watching Game of Thrones because that's what I've been doing this weekend, because it's been a nice relaxer for me. And spoilers, sorry, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones by now, like, I'm just going to start talking about it.
Yeah,
but
do it.
Jaime and Brienne are captured by these people, and Jaime's talking to Brienne, and he's like, they're going to take your honor. Like, they're going to rape you. Like, just let them do it or they'll kill you. And then, so you're really worried about Brienne getting raped, right? And then in the end, she doesn't get raped, but Jaime gets his hand cut off, right? And his hand is his honor. That is the equivalent to him. And he tries to die, and he tells her that's stupid to die for your honor. But then he literally is trying to get them to kill him after they chop off his hand because they've taken his honor. And he's been the one who's been violated in the sequence. And he says that he'd make them kill him if they took his honor, if he was a woman. And then they do that. And he has to cope with and understand that. And then he chooses to survive, and he chooses to live, and Brienne has to re-inspire him. And that's a subversion. That's not an accident. No one was like, oh, I didn't know these two storylines went together. Like, George R.R. Martin did hard work, and I want to appreciate the hard work he did to have that narrative function. And so I think it's important. And sure, are there things that weren't great? Like, if we're looking at the Dothraki and some of the treatment of indigenous people, definitely things that are problematic and things to discuss and understand. But I think there are things to discuss and understand as we go forward and tell more stories. All stories come from places that are both aware and both ignorant. And I think it's important just to analyze that, because art is something to engage with. I don't think it's something to ever be complacent of in any function. I was talking to an exec about the Big Bang Theory and the function of how I do think the Big Bang Theory is really interesting, and a discussion of what does masculinity mean now in modern day. I mean, that's the stressor of the show. All these men are stressed out about what masculinity is. And each episode is about them in relationship to Penny, re-engaging what masculinity and what femininity are. Yeah. And that is
there's this whole alpha male, like narrative out there now. I mean, if you're not an alpha, that's not alpha enough. And this isn't alpha. And it's like there's a whole dating, vloggers out there on this whole how to be an alpha thing. It's just I've dug into it a little bit on some of my other stream, and that thing is deep. These young men are being pounded by some of this stuff. I'm glad I never had to worry about all that. Well, they don't have, again, it goes back to my question of the rite of passage, in this culture and what these men have. And now they're being taught online by other men their age that have figured out how to manipulate other, younger men that don't have anything in their life to look forward to, or to, I guess, have that rite of passage. So they're using these guys. So these guys who know absolutely nothing, just have an alpha attitude, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, are teaching these other young men how to do this thing. And it's just, I was like, wow, this is amazing that this is really going on. And these guys that do this have thousands of followers, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of followers that pay these guys to show them what clothes to wear, how to talk to women, how to go get a job, how to emancipate another man, all this stuff that's out there. It's like, whoa, man, there's a whole culture out there. What they call it, the dating culture or something. There's a bunch of different vloggers out there doing this.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Let's not invite them to our show.
They're out there. Believe me, they're out there.
Yeah. But that's just incredible, Sienna. And I had a question for you, and Roy made me totally forget it.
Well, what he brings up is just all these different voices that different people are listening to, and how we should be critical and aware of who these voices are, where they're coming from, and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. It's something that I think it's important to think about what a narrative is unconsciously doing and what it is consciously doing. Because when someone makes something, they have a conscious thing they want you to take away from it. I think it's why shows like for children are especially important, because children are, I've noticed adults are very impressionable too, but children are especially impressionable. So if you're looking at like Moana, or you're looking at Steven Universe and the way that they tell these stories and what they're trying to get away, I think Steven Universe is brilliant, having this boy main character surrounded by all these different women. And the narrative of the show is that we grow stronger and we can change things through love and acceptance and understanding. And that's what Steven does, like every single episode. I don't know if have you seen Steven Universe, or am I just
no. I haven't. I want to see it though now.
I recommend it. It's about this boy, and he's part like alien from space. His mom was an alien, and he lives with his 3 alien aunts. And there was it's all about colonization, and basically there was a big war on Earth, and they're exiles, and they're dealing with all this fallout and trauma. And it's a Cartoon Network show, but it has such important discussions, and I also think it's funny and interesting. And so when I'm looking at media, that's media that inspires me.
You know what I wanted to, from what we were talking about briefly earlier, was you were talking about the narrative and what it means and how we perceive it and what it does to us culturally or intellectually or whatever. What I like about what I've been taught from my elder in our culture and indigenous culture, that all of these things, and this is what this show is about. Shannon and I were taught about the hoop, and that everything is sacred, everything is connected, everything is related. There's nothing greater, nothing lesser. And within the hoop, everything exists, and we get to take and manipulate and do with that information, that situation, everything, and do what we want with it. It's up to us. So for instance, you and I both don't have the same affinity for the elf that Shannon has. And we get to take that from the hoop and do with it what we please. And she gets to take that, and it gets to mean something else for her, and the history of her family and what it meant for her child. And she gets to take that out of the hoop her way, and we get to take it out of the hoop our way. And then we create our own narrative with that. And a lot of times we do it with humor, which is cool, and storytelling. And that's our culture in a nutshell. We take all of these things and we do with them what we want to do with them. Not all 3 of us here have the same idea of a Seinfeld episode. And that's just the way it is, and that's the way it gets to be, because we are who we are. It's all in the hoop. Everything's within the hoop, and you get to do with it what you want to do with it. Oh, I got a yeah from Shannon. I like it when I get the yes.
Yes. Before we go tonight, I just wanted to mention Charlie Hill, and remember seeing Charlie Hill live doing stand-up, and was so amazed to be in a full, this was somewhere, I'm forgetting where it was somewhere in Arizona, but the entire freaking audience, this big, lower level and upper level of people who were all native, laughing with Charlie Hill doing all these kind of, basic, this is what it's like being native kind of stuff. And I just wonder, you share a special place as a comedian, and a storyteller, and a person who is native. And what do you? And you definitely, I don't know what kind of question I'm trying to ask here, but you're not just focusing on that Native story. You're focusing on something that's much bigger than that, bigger than us in Indian country. And how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like you're being disloyal, that you jump back and forth? Do you feel connected to that all the time? Are there things that you struggle with in your mind with the choices that you're making, with writing and acting and film writing, that are conflicting for you, or that you found some kind of peace with or health with?
I think that I can only tell the stories that I know. And the stories I know are varied in that I think a lot of people will boil it down to being like, well, I'm Native, so I know Native stories. And I do know Native stories, but I also know stories about being desperate and stories about being stupid. I mean, I think all people are multifaceted. And I think it's a big issue when we start talking about like creators who aren't white and aren't men, and ascribing a weight that they already carry to them, and then being like, oh, well, do you think about that weight a lot? Like, I feel I talked about this in the tokenization interview I did, but what's interesting to me is how that's asked of us, and it's a responsibility, but also that we have so many things to talk about, and it doesn't happen to other people in other cultures. I never feel like, I don't like people telling me what to do. And so, like, if I want to talk about Elf on a Shelf, I talk about Elf on a Shelf. If I want to talk about being Native, I talk about being Native. And I don't care about what space I do it in or when I do it in. The only thing I know is that by being a Native person and existing in a way that I am direct when there is racism and violence against us and anti-Native sentiments, that I am able to help broaden an understanding of Natives and bringing my narrative to that. And all people have different varied narratives. I would never limit anyone's narrative ever. But that existence is interesting. I don't think I told the story last time, but I was helping with a TV show where I was, there was going to be a Native character, which I had pushed for. Cause I was like, yeah, like they wanted to diversify it. And I was like, this guy should be Native. Like, I kept saying it. And one of the writers was like, oh, that's a really good idea, because, like, he's like stoic and quiet and Natives are, and he looked at me and I could see him like dragging and dropping the stereotype in his head. Like, oh, that was a stereotype. That's not how all Native people are. They're different. And I think it's really important that Native people go out and tell lots of different stories. I mean, if we're going to talk about the TV story, the stories that are coming out right now, we're talking about Spirit Rangers, which is like magical adventure, or if we're talking about Rutherford Falls, which is going to be politics and its relationship to Nativeness and history and all that kind of stuff, or if we're talking about Reservation Dogs, which I'm excited for, or there's so many Native stories that are coming out or have come out for looking at Trickster or Blood Quantum, and they're all different conversations. And I think it's important to get to a place where we look at characters, and I get annoyed when someone just makes a character a race and doesn't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a way that people are one way, but the way that we look and function and are raised in the world and interact with the world affects the way the world interacts with us. And so it's something I think a lot about when I'm writing. Being Native is a character aspect, and it's a part of the way that I've been shaped in the world. I see the world. I was talking with my roommate about this because she's Filipino, and she was telling us about like the Japanese invasion in the Philippines and what happened like to her grandfather and stuff. And like, it was never in our history books, but as a child, I knew a lot of shit wasn't in history books. And I was like, yep, sounds right. Just not mentioned. We were like 7, and she's telling me like a graphic war story that like wasn't mentioned or talked about when we talked about history. And I was like, that makes sense, because in my head, there's so much history that I knew was left out. Like, I never thought this is everything in the history book, because I would get told history. And I was like, that's not it. And so I don't feel like I'm betraying. I can only tell the stories that I know and understand. And I would never try to tell a story I couldn't tell or didn't understand. And I think that's what makes storytelling right now and TV so special, is it's coming from people who have these personal places and these personal understandings of experiences. And it doesn't just mean being Native, but like coming from a different class level, growing up in a city, what your relationships have been like, what you're like in relationships, what your family's like. These are all different things that influence the type of stories we tell. And so I guess I'm at peace with it because I'm a comedian and I'm a storyteller, and I can only tell what I can tell. And I don't want to get wound up thinking that I need to start like telling other people's stories, because I have a Native story and there's so many Native stories, and that's the world and understanding I come from. And that's what I want to share with people.
Yeah.
But your story, and I say this to all of our guests, your story is a Native story, period, end of story. That's it. It's just your Native story. You have been molded and formed by the world that has been given to you, and you're just interacting with it, and you're doing it as an Indigenous person with your Indigenous thoughts and your Indigenous mind and your Indigenous attitude. And you're right, they're not all the same. You know, like my wife is very, you know, she's just this bright personality, lights up a room she walks in. She's just one of those people. Me, I'm talkative. I can sit and talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere. So we have these two children, and they're these stoic, intelligent, have barely said, you know, a handful of words to me their whole life, to be honest, and don't talk to anybody. They're just these they're very stoic. If you were to like say, okay, well, where's the stoic Indians? Or like you look at my kids they speak very few words, but that's not how we raised them. You know, we raised them around these two parents that are always active, always talking, always doing things, but it's just their personality. It's who they are, you know, and it's their experience. So and not everybody's the same, and these stereotypes are just, you know.
Well, it's what we talk about here on the show, is that even we as Native people tend to put one another in a box, and we don't look about our complex stories and our complex histories that were the result of genocide and assimilation and termination and relocation and all the other Asians out there. And that we've got to really start thinking about stopping putting one another in those boxes because of people like you, Sienna, who have these complex, rich storytelling. Yeah. And you're our future, right?
Yep. I'm excited to get to know you.
In my experience, like I haven't felt that way around Native people, at least like when I've like, not just my family, but like when I did the LA Skins Labs, or I've been in other like Native American, the ND&D I do and other stuff, you know, it's the first time I've truly like, I've always said these things, and like people who aren't Native have been like, well, you should do it this way, or do you feel like you have to be doing this or whatever? And like, oh, shouldn't you be this way? But in these Native places I've been in, like, especially at LA Skins, and when we were doing the Showrunners Lab, when we were doing the TV Writers Lab, I just got to say the things I wanted to say and share the stories I wanted to share, and everyone else did, and no one had any pressure on someone to do something that they didn't want to do. And we had some really fun like stories and TV show pilots that came out of that class, because no one felt the pressure that they had to perform something for someone. And I never would want my Nativeness to ever be performative. I don't think performative functions are helpful, necessary, or compelling to me. So when we were all together and we were writing it, no one felt the need to perform, because no one was questioning anyone's indigeneity or anything like that. We were just supporting each other and excited to be together. And it was a really special experience that I got to have, like, with Native people. Or when I did, we had like an improv show that Joy Clift ran at UCB, and that was great. I mean, there have been so many like Native groups that I've been around and in where there's no pressure. It's just excitement for each other. And I'm so excited when I get to see my friends succeed, and so excited when I get to see them tell whatever story they want to tell.
Yeah. And it's like my cousin and Saginaw Grant, we were all pretty close back in the 90s. I was spending a lot of time in Hollywood out there. And so I know them outside of, you know, what you see on screen and the powwows and whatnot. And there's a whole different side to these guys. And, you know, there was a dating scene and a party scene and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, they're multifaceted. It's not just what you see on TV or what you see at the powwows. These guys have, you know, lives outside of, you know, being the stereotypical Indian.
I think that's why it's so important that you get like multiple people. You can't just pop one person in a room and put the weight of everything on them. Put a bunch of Native people in your writer's room and on your books and all that kind of stuff, because they have different experiences and they'll bring so many different things, and you'll make everyone feel so much better and more comfortable. I was watching Little Fires Everywhere. The showrunner was talking about that, and how having multiple. She's like, I had multiple Black women in the room, and they were like, thank God I'm not the only voice for this, and we can talk to each other and we can grow, because we're not perfect, and also our experiences are broad and multifaceted, and I feel so much more comfortable in a room not being the voice, and I don't think anyone wants to be the voice. I think that's a weird pressure that gets put on people.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for the voice.
That's when you really want to be the voice. You want that chair turn. Is the winner the voice? Is that what they call the winner of the voice? You're the
voice.
That's you.
I can't watch those shows. I don't know why.
You don't watch The Masked Singer?
Now
are they masked singers now? I don't watch TV. I don't have time.
Did you say time. Masked Dancer?
There's a masked dancer now.
What?
I don't even know how they do it. You could wearing a big head mask thing. How are they doing this? Yes, there's a masked dancer. Okay, somebody watch it. Tell us about it.
What's the mask?
I can't deal.
You wear a mask, and then people vote off the worst one. But then you also have to guess who people are, because they're wearing masks. So you get famous people under masks. For The Masked Singer, it's famous people under masks singing, and you guess who it is. It feels like a show that you would see in an alternate universe dystopia for the world. So I'm very worried we're in an alternate universe dystopia, because we've gotten to the point where Masked Singer is on TV. But also, I'll be straight up, it's super fun to watch. My mom was watching it one time, and I sat down and I was like, who is that? And then we all fought about who was singing, and I was like, oh my God, they've got me.
But you never think of who it is, because it's someone you've never heard of before. It's like, who's that? Or it's a football player.
No wonder I couldn't figure the damn thing out.
I don't know who this is.
Well, my dad knows all the old singers, so he's like, oh, it's so-and-so from the 60s. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Ariana Grande. And that's my dad.
He's like, who the hell's Ariana Grande? Yeah, for sure. This has really been a great show, Sienna, and it's really it took a train, and it took a road I wasn't expecting, but it was really great, and great to get to know you. I wanted to share, since it is Christmas in a few days here,
holiday season,
a holiday, and it's solstice now, and I'm wearing my Choctaw holiday shirt. And what do you got on?
You've got little Grinches on.
She's got little Grinches. She's got her ska Grinch shirt on.
Yes. I wanted to share this video that I love. It's on YouTube, so y'all can watch it. It's about 4 minutes long. And then we'll close up shop. If y'all don't mind, I'm gonna get it started.
Go ahead, start it up.
It's the Native American Night Before Christmas. So let's see if I can share the screen properly this time. The Native American Night Before Christmas. All right, here we go. We're going to full screen and play.
"'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the teepee, not a creature was stirring, nothing crawly, nothing creepy. The moccasins were hung from the lodge posts with care, in hopes that old Red Shirt soon would be there. The kids were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of choke cherries danced in their heads. And I in my Pendleton, and Ma in her skins, had just cuddled up cozy against cold winter winds, when out in the camp rose a noise so humongous, I thought a wildcat had sneaked in among us. Up I jumped and ran through the clutter, drew back the flap, and made the lodge shudder. The moon and the stars in the night sky were blinking, like the headlight that shines on my '69 Lincoln. When what to my wondering eyes did show but an old wooden sleigh and 8 buffalo, with a plump little driver who was so well fed, I thought for a minute it was flying fry bread. Like thundering clouds, these mammoths they came, and he whistled and shouted, called them by name. Now Harjo, now Redbow, now Chino and Soodle, on Tall Chief, on Jim Boy, on White Cloud and Serpohoodle. To the top of the trees, to the top of the bushes, he yelled, haul your fur and move your tushes. Like pine cones caught and tossed by a whirlwind and suspended in air by the magic of medicine, up to the lodge top, the bison they flew, with a sleigh full of commodities, and the old Indian too. Then in a moment they froze there in space, and I felt all the color drain from my face. I turned back inside just as quick as wink, as down the smoke hole old Red Shirt did sink. He was dressed in red buckskins from his head to his foot, with beadwork and fringe. He really looked good. A medicine bundle he had by his side, on his back a large bag made of buffalo hide. A headdress he wore as tall as a crown, made of white turkey feathers, all tipped in brown. His skin was as wrinkled as sun-baked earth, but none of these things told of his worth. He spoke not a word, but used sign language instead, and filled all the moccasin with toys and fry bread. And then, like smoke rising into the night, he gave me a wink and took to his flight. Up through the smoke hole, into the sleigh, awakened his team with a hearty hoka-hey. And I heard him exclaim as they thundered out of sight, Merry Christmas to all my relations, and to all a good night.
What did y'all think of that?
That was a
so
good
cute.
one.
I like how he did Santa look good. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, hey, really looked good.
Just like the light on my
Oh, that was
69
funny too. I
Lincoln.
did like that joke a lot.
I like that.
You know what one is also good, you've got to get out there and find it, is when Santa gets stuck in the smoke hole of my teepee. There's a song of that one which is pretty funny. But this one is just a nice kind of Indian Christmas song.
Indian Santa.
End our show with
Christmas.
with the big red shirt coming to town on
Yes.
Friday, and I hope everyone has a good Christmas. It's been a hard year, so I hope
It's been a good year. It's been a good year. Lots of changes, but it's been a good year.
yes,
Because it's
yes.
the beginning of something that's great. You watch.
I thought you were going to say it's the age of Aquarius. And I was like, it's going to be the age of Aquarius. That's my roommate and I talk about, but never mind.
You're right. We're here. We're here. And having people like you, Sienna, it's going to be an honor to watch you grow. You are an amazing talent. Getting to know you here on the show has been really cool. And I'm glad you came on. Appreciate you, and we appreciate the work that you're going to do in the future. You have a bright future ahead of you, that's for sure. Being so young, 14 years old, and being as smart as you are, my God, girl, you are going to do things and go places. Just quit sleeping with so many men. You're too young for that.
I got a note when I was doing stand-up, and I made a joke about being 14, and then I made a joke about my period and having sex, and they were like, you have to tell people in between those jokes that
there's an age difference.
27. You're very much alarming your audience right now. And I was like, oh, thanks.
good notes there. Yeah, good note. Yeah,
All right.
Thanks so much, Sienna.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Sienna. Would
It's been
you
great to
mind
be here.
sticking around in the green room for just a moment until we close the show out? So there was
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
things I want to talk to you. Cool,
No,
cool.
thanks for having me here and letting me talk about Little Shop of Horrors to everybody.
Oh yeah.
On Red
never
Hoop
watched it
Talk.
the same.
All right. Thanks, Sienna.
Thank you. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out.
Bye.
Well, that was awesome.
That was awesome. She's great. Oh my god.
She is an amazing young lady,
It
and
just
she is
goes
good
to show you how amazing Choctaw people are. Just saying. So next
Yes,
week,
they are.
Next week we have a really special show. I'm going to be inviting all our alumni guests and see who shows up, but you are also our special guest. So please join the show. I think we will have the link for the show in our comments.
It's going to be your Red Hoop Talk.
Your Red Hoop Talk, and tell us how Christmas was for you or what you did over the couple of days off of work, and what you're planning for the new year. And we're really looking forward to having you on the show next week. What else, Roy? I think that's it. Oh, this was brought to you by the Association on American Indian Affairs. Thank you for participating in Red Hoop Talk and being part of our family. Help us grow. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube page, please.
Yes. Yep.
And
have a very happy holidays, a safe holidays, social distance, and stay safe. We want all of you guys to stay well. That's for sure. So Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all of
Solstice.
that stuff.
Happy Solstice.
Happy Solstice to those of you who put the buffalo skull out and tell the long stories.
All right.
All right, Shannon. Thank you. And I'll see you next week too.
Maybe.
All right. I'm going to hit the button. See you guys later. We'll talk to you next week on Red Hoop Talk.